If I could get the sound to work. Where's the sound not working? All right, no music tonight. Hit us up, live intro, CK.
In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable appetite for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers podcast.
Perfect. What's the deal, Panther fans? It's your boy, Tony Dunn, here hanging out with you guys, chopping up the latest Panthers news and opinions. It's the C3 Panthers podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where tonight, I guess we will just celebrate Cash Money Christian McCaffrey. It's the 10th episode of the season. There's not a lot of football to talk about, but we're here to help you get through this lull in sports and get us to the draft. And I'm here to do it with my homeboys. What's up, Cody Lashney?
Tony Dunn. We're in the podcast industry, man. This is the only industry unaffected by all this craziness. And we're here for the Panther fans to talk about, dude, of course, what we're going to talk about. Christian McCaffrey, all things running back. Is it worth it? And, of course, we have the most lit chat room in Panther fandom in our YouTube chat right now. Tim Tizzy, Tyler Duncan, Underground West, Richard's Outdoor World, Tony Dunn, and nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
The number's 252-228-5098. You can be a part of the C3 Panthers podcast, just like CK is here and a part of it. Was streamed a little video games with you the other night. I had a good time.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's a fun little thing to do. Believe it or not, I was actually streaming with the guys from Pat McAfee's show earlier today, and it's fun, man. When you get a group of people, man, yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, man, it's nice to be able to hang out with you guys outside of just podcasting and talking about football and actually going and shooting some people in the face on a video game.
Yeah, that's the truth. And Greg was there, the Bat Daddy, the Stat Daddy, the man of many podcasts. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm tired. It's a long week, long hours, but I got some good news this week with the Christian McCaffrey thing. It made me feel pretty good, and T Money on Twitter said that everybody can stop worrying now, and to a certain extent, he's right. It just depends on how you look at it, but there are positive things about this and negative things about this. So let's go over them, man.
All right, well, right on. All right, so let's just go ahead and jump into that. Is that Christian McCaffrey cash rules? What is it? Cash rules
money Christian.
Cash money Christian. Right? Cash rules everything around me. Cream. Dollar bill, y'all. Christian McCaffrey signs a 4-year extension for $64 million, making him the highest paid running back in the NFL, the highest paid Panther, and the face of the franchise moving forward. We knew that that's where it had to be, but there has been some speculation about how deep this rebuild was going to go and if Christian McCaffrey would be the way to gain assets or if we would even invest that much money around him. We've gone back and forth, but it's finally here. We have something to build our team upon beyond just – well, that's it. We have something now beyond just this season to build our team upon.
Yeah, and so listen, I want to go first, and I want to preface this by saying Christian McCaffrey is the best fucking running back in the NFL. I don't want Saquon Barkley. I don't want Ezekiel Elliott. I don't want Todd Gurley. I wouldn't want any of those assholes. I think Christian McCaffrey is the best that there is. So, again, this is not me shitting on the player. He's easily the best player that we have on our entire offense. But I'm not going to lie. I'm of the mindset that when has a winning organization ever built their franchise around a running back? I mean, Christian McCaffrey had the best season last year that any running back has had in a long time. And how many wins did that ultimately end up accounting for? Now, granted, there's more that goes into it than that, but we're still talking about we're paying $16 million a year to Christian McCaffrey now. And, we're hoping that Teddy Bridgewater pans out. A lot of Panther fans are in his corner. A lot of them aren't. And then you have a bunch of other contracts that are pretty hefty from K1 Short, now Bridgewater, Russell Okung. I don't know. You really kind of have to wonder about the future of our organization, and is Marty Herney repeating sins of the past and overpaying for a position that's so easily replaced in today's NFL?
Guys, your thoughts on building now? One of the things we were told when Matt Rule was brought into this thing, right, is that this was going to be an analytics-driven type environment. And when you look at what the analytics people say, is they have devalued the running back. So, CK, where do you stand on this? As in, is this something that was done for the betterment of the Carolina Panthers, or was this something that was done because you have to have something to give to the people?
Oh, you say CK?
Yeah, well, is he there?
I was saying
he's gone. He's gone. I was even looking. All right, go ahead, Greg. Take that question.
I think it might be kind of a little bit of a make good move, but it doesn't mean it's not a smart move. You can. I think Tepper knows that fans are pissed, and I don't know if he necessarily cares or not, but I'd like to think of it as a kind of an apology. Like, hey, I'm sorry, we're going to keep this guy, but I know it's not. It's a business move, and I get that. And Cody, you were saying that the teams don't build around running backs and win Super Bowls, but I'm looking at the top rushing teams of last year: Baltimore, San Francisco, Tennessee, Seattle, Dallas, Minnesota, Buffalo, Houston.
And how much were they paying each of those guys?
But those are all playoff teams that have top rushing players. I mean, if you can get that kind of production out of one guy.
No, this isn't talking about the importance of running the football. That's incredibly important. What we're talking about is the do you have to have a top tier, top flight running back to be able to do that? No one was better than San Francisco, and most of their running backs were undrafted free agents. Again, this is not a critique on McCaffrey. We all love McCaffrey. He's certainly by far the most popular player on our team now. And part of me thinks that this isn't a football decision. It's a financial decision.
Yeah.
But you have a fan base that's pissed off about how Cam Newton was treated, and Greg Olsen. Luke Kuechly retired. I mean, David Tepper has to put asses in seats. And who else is going to do that other than Christian McCaffrey? Because no one's coming here to see Teddy Bridgewater.
Nope. Who else is getting paid on the offense?
Curtis Samuel's got to either get paid.
Actually, there is nobody making any money. Maybe you could say that center Paradis made a little. He has a little bit of money.
I have it up right now. For this next year, Russell Okung will be $13 million. Matt Paradis is $5.5 million, and then Robbie Anderson at $4 million.
So nobody's getting paid. So the fact that we have somebody getting, I mean, like, it'd be different if we were paying Steve Smith his money, if we were paying D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart his money. But the reality is, here's what I'll say, and we can critique this all we want, but I will say that I think the running game is, with what Christian McCaffrey brings to the table, I think it is more important to have him on the team. But let's take into account, for instance, Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry has been, by all accounts, a disappointment until this past year. This past year, he blew it out of the water, right? He just went insane with his numbers. And then
one thing with Derrick, I think Derrick Henry has always been pretty good in Tennessee. Their team has just been a little, wonky.
Exactly, but
even Derrick Henry, just his thing is he had some of those early in the season, or at one point those monster games. His numbers are kind of super inflated a little bit, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, he's had, like, if you look at the postseason, he was just incredible. But my point is once they found that if they could actually establish a run game and actually be successful at it, look what happened to that team. They didn't need to have a top flight quarterback. They basically, all they needed to do was be able to get the ball to Derrick Henry, and then get not turn the ball over when they are passing the ball. And I think they did that really well with Tannehill down the stretch. It's just, I think that that's kind of the same thing we need to adopt, except for we're going to be more air raid, I feel like. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm thankful that we got it. I think you're right. I think it is a more of a business decision than a football decision. But, I'm glad that I bought it.
Well, you have to have something, is that, and the idea that someone was going to trade you whatever Christian McCaffrey was quote unquote worth, I think is, I think teams are a little hesitant to do that to a certain degree, especially when it's on good teams that a running back is probably devalued a little. On bad teams, a great running. See, that's the thing is, I don't know if all good running backs could have done in Carolina what Christian did last year and the year before. He did that behind poor offensive lines. He made a lot out of nothing. Yeah, poor quarterbacks. Now, the question then comes to the value of a receiving running back. And I don't know how I feel about. I feel like it's easy. The easy route, Cody, is to say, well, look, is that you can look around the league and see teams that have done it without great running backs. But you can also look around the league and see teams that have had success without great quarterbacks. But I'd rather have a great player than a not great player. But how do you think about when people try to make the comparison between Christian McCaffrey and pass catching running backs? I don't know if I feel like he adds something more than a lot of players I've seen in the past. To me, he's like a Marshall Faulk player, and I never just looked at Marshall Faulk as a running back.
Well,
Yeah,
good.
Well, I mean, listen, I already said I think he's the best running back in the NFL. I firmly believe that. There is not another running back I would take ahead of him. Not Derrick Henry, none of them. So it's not an indictment on the player. But if you look at the success of the Patriots, for example, and I'm not saying that everyone needs to be the Patriots or try and replicate the Patriot way, but they've always separated their emotions from what is business. And up until this point in time, in this modern day NFL, there haven't been a lot of teams that have had success after paying a running back a ton of money. Look at Ezekiel Elliott. Look at Todd Gurley. Look at Devontae Freeman. The Vikings forever were built around Adrian Peterson. You're not building around a position where there are so many good ones coming in and out. Now, with that said, yeah, I believe McCaffrey is today's version of Marshall Faulk. But the fact of the matter is we're paying him $16 million a year now. So, I mean, hey, I'm happy for him. He deserves every dollar. He earned it. But I don't know. I just don't know if this is a good long-term move for us. I'm hesitant.
Let me ask you: Would you pay $8 million a year for a receiver that could get you 105 receptions, 1,000 yards, and let's just say 8 touchdowns? That's decent numbers.
Yeah, man, that's what Robbie Anderson gives you 50 catches, 8 touchdowns, 800 yards, and he's going to get that.
Right. The difference, and I want to do the same thing. I want to think like that too, Greg. I do, but then I sit here and think that, that the benefit of having a guy that can do that in the slot and a guy like Christian McCaffrey in the backfield is so important, and I think it does so much to a defense that when you have one guy who is everything like that, I think it does kind of pigeonhole you to that one situation. So I like a lot of people, like with Le'Veon Bell's situation, he wanted to be paid as a running back and the number 2 wide receiver. Well, you can't technically play both spots. So being able to be paid like you're playing both spots doesn't mean you're still playing the running back position. You're just there as a check down option. And so I think that I agree. I want to think that way. I do. But then I sit there and I kind of take a step back and I'm like, well, the reality is he can only do one of those things at one time. He can't run the ball and catch the ball at the same time, in the same play.
Yeah,
but But nobody can. I mean, you know, you're going to pay a receiver for catching the ball and a running back for running the ball. But if you can pay a guy to do both, that can put up the production of, you know, a good wide receiver, Pro Bowl caliber wide receiver, and a running back that could be possibly the best in the NFL. I mean, look, my thing is, we're comparing him to Marshall Faulk.
Yeah,
that's a damn good comparison right there. If you're compared to Marshall Faulk, man, you got a pretty good projection coming your way. And the way his numbers are going right now, he will be the greatest Panther to ever play in this franchise. He puts up 5 more years like he has his first few. I mean, catching backs age well because they can switch to that position. He has it in his genes to have great hands. What's he dropped, like 5 passes in his whole career? Something like that? Not many. I know it's not more than a handful, I don't think. I have to look it up. But I mean, the thing is, we're comparing him to like players like Ezekiel Elliott got paid big, and you know, all these players we're talking about, those guys are not Christian McCaffrey. Yeah. They don't do what Christian McCaffrey does. I will take 300 less rushing yards and 700 more receiving yards any day of the week. I don't care. Any day of the week, man. He's a dual threat back. I guarantee you defenses are more scared of playing Christian McCaffrey than they are Ezekiel Elliott. They may be more scared to tackle Ezekiel Elliott. I get that. But as far as playing goes, there's nobody I would fear more than Christian McCaffrey.
So, again, to kind of take on the Greg role today and be the devil's advocate, if you look at throws at 5+ yards downfield, McCaffrey has 441 receiving yards over the last 2 seasons. That's 134th in the league in the NFL. So, and unless Joe Brady has an intention to use Christian.
I got to double check that. Say that again.
I think that you and I were tagged in this on Twitter. This is from Bill Barnwell. If you look at those 5+ yards down the field, he has 441 receiving yards over the last 2 seasons. That ranks a 134th in the NFL.
See, but that's a stat with a modifier in it. Who cares if it's 5 yards or further down the field? If I get
no, but there's
40 yards a yak.
But there's a point to that, though, meaning that as a receiver, unless Joe Brady intends to use him down the field far more often than we are, then he's still primarily a running back far more than he is a receiver, and his value as a receiver is kind of overstated. Now, that's not saying that he isn't an incredible receiver, and that's why I wouldn't be surprised if we see some new stuff this year from Joe Brady on some more downfield kind of stuff. That's a very real possibility. But as of right now, you just paid the best running back in the NFL. You didn't also pay a receiver, even though he is an incredible receiving running back.
All right, so I want to address that point. I think it's a good point, but I do think there are some flaws in that analysis. Here is I've got it up on the screen for the viewers on YouTube. I'll read it to you guys. This is a tweet or like one of those notes tweets because it's too long to be a tweet, from Josh Parcell from WFNZ, and he said the idea of McCaffrey is such a rare pass-catching running back that he's essentially a running back and a receiver seems appealing, but when you compare his pass-catching production to actual receivers, it falls apart. There have been 107 instances of a wide-out catching at least 100 passes in a year. Only 2 of those at 107 average less than 10 yards per reception. None average fewer than McCaffrey's career-high 8.7 mark from last season. The same is true of the 5 tight ends who have caught at least 100 passes in a season, each whom averaged at least 9 yards per catch. So again, that's a statistic that kind of mirrors what you're saying, Cody, is that even though he's catching balls, he's doing it as a running back. Now, the thing is that we have said over and over on this podcast that does separate Christian McCaffrey from other receivers is that other running backs, is you can see him actually being a wide receiver. Right. I mean, I look at him when I watch him play, and when I see him do whatever he does, he looks just as good to me as any other player on the field at any other position. Better, right? So we could say to Christian McCaffrey, what if we could say we want you to be a wide receiver, and I bet you he could do it.
Oh, 100%.
Right? Is that
And
we
that's the
could?
thing,
I think we could say this. We're not going to use you at running back at all. And how about this? What if we said this? Which receiver would he be on our team if we said he was no longer a running back and he's now a wide receiver? Would you say that Robbie Anderson's better than him? Would you say that DJ Moore's better than him? I might say that Christian McCaffrey is instantly the best receiver on the team.
Very possible. I've seen him make some amazing down the field catches. And the thing is, the stats we were saying just now, that would be different had he lined up as a wide receiver. And I get that's the point.
And that's what Cody is saying, is that you would have to use him that way for him to be that way.
The hard part about it is to be able to point out the reason that I say that it's unfair to say that he's the best receiver is that a lot of our receivers are down the field threats, right? We haven't had a quarterback that can get the ball to the down the field threats on the field.
It's hard to blame the receivers. Like when you don't have a quarterback, what's your option? You go to your running back and you throw him check down passes. Yeah. So it's like, and by the way, listen, I don't give a damn if people think I'm hating. Like, I don't give a shit. Christian McCaffrey is my favorite running back in the NFL. I'm able to separate my emotions from this. I'm going to be excited to see a homeboy play next year. But the point remains true that as of right now, you have but the trend that every other NFL team is avidly trying to shy away from. And you paid a running back $16 million a year. None of it didn't work for Le'Veon Bell. It didn't work for Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, there are so many running backs that they paid all the money in the world, and it didn't pan out soon thereafter. Now, I'm hoping that's not us, but I'm just looking at what has happened before, and now we're hoping that we're going to have an entirely different situation. Like, well, let's hope so, but that's not what all the data tells us.
Yeah.
But isn't that the same thing with us trading all our players away for all these draft picks and building all draft capital? What team's been successful doing that in the last 10 years?
Well, but we're not really doing that right now, though.
With this trade, we're not doing that. But up until this point, and this doesn't even change the fact that we might still be doing that. We could still be doing that, but now we have one solid piece on offense to build around. I mean, it's not like signing Christian McCaffrey is an automatic 6-7 wins for us. I mean, he's great, but it's not going to bump our win total up by that many wins. So
RT 1981 says Panthers always pay their running backs. Cody needs to get a clue. All right, how many times has that ever panned out? I'll wait. Okay, when they were paying D'Angelo Dip.
Well, at least we didn't pay two of them. It was Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams. We gave them both contracts.
Yeah, like
don't tell me
I'm stupid when this is.
Well, that was stupid. Not you. That was stupid to pay two running backs. Yeah. This is the thing: is you probably need to look at is what is 16 million of $185 million, and what is the allocation of percentage wise of their overall team cap. Now,
less than 10.
What would, if this was, I'm trying to think of what would a number that would make us happier.
I mean, I'm happy with the number. I mean, I don't mind him being the highest paid because I agree with Cody. I think he's the best in the NFL, and it's the way it's going to go. I don't think players should get paid nearly as much as they do, but it's going to happen. And if it's going to be my guy, that's cool because I think he deserves it. So I'm okay with that number. I really am.
Do you have any feeling, Cody, that Christian McCaffrey is different than the norm? That's the one thing that I've been kind of like, because I get you. The idea of this is like, let's not just pay people, let's be smart about things. Let's look at how we're framing the team, how we're building the future.
No rose-colored glasses here.
Right. I get that. But is there in a time, and it kind of felt like for me, it's what Christian McCaffrey has showed me in the past 2 years on a team where everybody knew he was the only thing that was of note on the whole damn team, is he still got his every time. And it seems like it's just like when Cam was at the peak of his game. It was like if you just looked at it from his passing stats, it didn't capture it. And it's kind of what I'm just trying to get to is I don't know does it matter sometimes the position when you just have an it guy? Maybe it's not the position all the time, but just having an it guy. Maybe it's not just having a DN that puts up 10 sacks, but having a it DM, one that devastates a game. A wide, is a linebacker, is a Luke Kuechly linebacker different than just a good linebacker? And I mean, I know there is a difference, but is it not their position, but the it factor?
Well, yeah, and I would say he has much more potential to be that than even Luke. From the, if you look at the running back and what they do and their scoring points, like the potential of Christian McCaffrey, as Greg said earlier, to be an all-time Panther player, I mean, that's very likely, And as I already said, to me, this is as much about putting butts in seats as it is about football. After the offseason that you've had, you can't not have the most popular player on your football team come back when you've lost Cam Newton, you've lost Greg Olsen, you've lost Luke Kuechly. I mean, in my mind, this is a huge, every bit as important as what he did on the football field. Because if David Tepper is all about analytics and data and this and that, well, there's no way that they didn't look at the data and come to the same conclusion that I'm coming to right now, that you don't pay a running back all that money. So that tells me they want to have players come see McCaffrey play football. And I'm not mad at that, but we need to be honest, and that's also what this is about.
There's one other thing, though. Could it be that we have underestimated what they believe the offense can be quicker, sooner than later?
Yeah.
Is that, for me, I'm sitting here wondering, we kept looking at so much of this as a throwaway. Oh, well, we're not bringing back Cam. Oh, we're not doing this. The team, we lost so much on defense. But with Joe Brady, maybe Matt Rule and Joe Brady are in there thinking that, man, we're going to put a top 10 offense on the field next year.
Yeah. Well, here's the other piece to this that I think that it's fair to bring up. We were talking about it before the podcast. Is that the details of the contract are not quite out yet, but there are reports saying that this is indeed an extension, meaning that we have him not for 4 more years, but for 6 total years, right? And if you think about it,
which there could be, we were debating before the show, is it 6 or is it 5? Does the 5th year option get included into that extension? My feeling is that it's a 4-year extension on top of the 1 year left on his contract, 5, but it could be 6. So say 2025 to be 2024 to be conservative.
Say 2024. And even if you take that math and you start to think about, he's owed $2.8 million this year. So let's add that to that $64 million extension. Let's see, and then divide that by the 5 years. That's $13 million, $13.3 million. So in the grand scheme of things, it may not be as bad as we want to think it is. That's not a horrible number when you think about the numbers that these other running backs are actually, garnering. So I think that that's something that we should.
And we don't.
Get that.
I agree. We don't have a team. Like he is the lifeblood, I think, of that offense with any of the pieces that we have there right now. Without Cam Newton, we always said with Cam Newton, you could put Cam Newton and 10 other dudes out there and they'd have a fighting chance. You can't say that about a team now. You can't say that about, you cannot just neglect the offense. Christian McCaffrey, though, I wonder, he has been one thing about him to his credit. He's been remarkably durable. Yeah. Throughout his time at Carolina. He has not suffered a lot of nicks and bruises. He plays hard too. He does not shy away from contact, and he has been healthy, knock on wood. The good news is he's also relatively young. So if you could get this and it work out, it might not be the worst overall. Shout out to Brandon Herbert in the chat room. Also, Anthony Rochelle, Tyler Duncan, Ben S., Pigskin Pete, thanks for supporting the show. Dakota Tumbleston in the house. The number's 252-228-5098. Let's go back and talk quickly before we go into the... Actually, let's just jump into the cat calls. I think I got it working finally. And let's see what people are reacting to the news of Christian McCaffrey signing the big deal.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's that kid that can use one?
This is Tanner up in Elkin. Just calling because I finally heard some good news from this Panthers offseason. Got McCaffrey. Not sure how I feel about the quantity, but I'm just pumped that we locked him in. I bought a Kelvin Benjamin jersey after he had a good season, and then we all know how that went. And so I've got this stupid jersey rotting away in my closet. Last year, I got a McCaffrey jersey. Just real happy that I'm going to hopefully want to wear that jersey for the rest of time. Anyhow, thanks.
Thanks for your call, man. CK, I know that's probably the best news about all of this is that your jersey all of a sudden has more lasting value than it did had there been a lockout or potential to trade of Christian McCaffrey away.
Yeah, so that's the obviously a positive to take from it is I bought that 100, NFL 100 years jersey and got it, official with McCaffrey and everything. And when we have that Hall of Honor, a little pin on it. So, yeah, it's definitely good news for me to be able to say that we have that. I just need to get him to sign it at this point in time.
All right, here's the next call.
Hi guys, Rich in the UK. I'm not in London.
What's up, Rich?
I'm quarantined at home, and it's been a few weeks. Where do we start? Okay, McCaffrey's just got his 16 million, which is wide receiver money. There's not really going to be anyone left on the Panthers that makes them the Panthers. That's my thoughts. If the rumours about Curtis being available are true, then that's just insanity. I haven't phoned him for a few weeks, but things like they don't want any men on the team. That was my tweet earlier today. They don't want Eric Reid. There's nothing wrong with Eric Reid's play. They don't want that type of person. They don't want Cam.
I think we're all on board with that.
Any kind of personality. It's a sign of, to me, it's a sign of weakness. I'm really not sold on that rule. I know some people like the way he spoke, but I find the trouble is they've lied through their back teeth to us. That's the biggest problem I have with them. It's just been, just turn around and go, we're going to strip it down and get this guy's thing in. And they might have hinted that that's what they were doing, but they lied. All this stuff about Cam, it's just ridiculous. We'll definitely do this, we'll definitely do that. I mean, I've no idea where they're going in the draft anymore either. It's all just very disappointing. I mean, I'm really looking forward to wherever Cam goes, to be honest. But, I mean, I'd hate to say I'm giving up on the team because, all right, I'm not in the Carolinas, but it means a lot to me. But I'm so disappointed with the way they've behaved. It's not even that it's a business. They could have turned around and said, this is how it is. We really are restarting. But the level of, we're going to let the old guys go, we're going to let the vets go. I'm just not happy with it at all. I don't know what Hurney's doing there. I don't know. Apparently he's really excited about Herbert and Brown. I mean, those are the last two. Oh, God. You can hear it. I'm just pissed off with them. It's so frustrating. I so wanted to be part of it, but who's there? Greg's not there. Luke's not there. It's just no one. No one that makes the Panthers or has made the Panthers the Panthers. I mean, it's basically DJ Moore, Brian Burns, and Christian McCaffrey. And I mean, I love McCaffrey, but, he's not worth 16 mil. It's insanity. They're making, Tepper said analytics, and it's like, well, you've clearly not checked up on analytics. Wonderful, fun player, but he should be, he was perfect 2 years ago when we thought we could rebound. We'd made the playoffs. We had this exciting weapon. We drafted him and Kurt.
Oh, let's see if he's got it back into the call.
This is Tanner up in Elkin.
All right. So responses to what we have is a frustrated Rick Kingston out there, and I think that clouds some of our perceptions of the Christian McCaffrey deal. In some ways, it makes us yearn for it. It's like, oh, we have something to hold on to, something familiar, something nice and shiny amidst all this rubbish. And then the other hand is you've had this offseason be a roller coaster of emotion for Panther fans, shedding the old, in with the new. But right now you can tell we're starting to be very cautious in our exuberance for the Matt Rule staff. And it comes back to me, some of the issues, not just with personnel decisions, but, how do we feel about the honesty of the direction of the team? And CK, you were reading something to us today. Who was telling us? Who was reading the passage about Marty Hurney in the draft?
I was, and I think it'd be a good time to bring. But before I bring it up, I kind of want to mention, let me even find it in the chat. Ben S. said we need to start looking forward. We had several weeks of complaining. Move on. And this is kind of what I'm arguing a little bit, is that the news around Panther Nation has been so fucking drab, dude. It's been like there's been nothing fun really to talk about. It's what player are we moving on from, and then they're pissed off, or who are we letting go, and then Matt Rule is not telling the truth, and all these different things. It's like I understand the people that want, they're like, let me have this moment. I love Christian McCaffrey. We signed him to another contract. Yes, I love it. I'm happy about something, and I understand that, man. You have to, especially in times like this, you have to have some good news. And I'm not trying to shit on that. I'm just also not trying to, look at this with rose-colored glasses and not mention all of the relevant things that need to be said about signing a running back to the highest-paid running back money in the NFL.
But there was no way for Christian McCaffrey to remain on the Carolina Panthers without this happening.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that was what I wanted to say about it. Is look, man. You got to pay your players sometime, right?
Sometimes
somebody's
you do,
get
and
paid
he's not, and the best is
team.
not behind him,
right? And if we didn't pay him, guess what? After next year, somebody else is going to pay him, and if you don't pay him now, next year you're going to pay him. Next year it's going to be $73 million. It's going to be insane. It's insane what they get paid, but it's the way the game is played.
I do like it for that fact is locking up sooner than later. Mm-hmm. Always something I advocated to is that I always advocated this. But goes back to the brilliance of when we extended Cam. Is that yes, the people like to come out, the naysayers, like the boo birds like to come out when they see the full number of the contract, right? And they're like, oh, Cam's not worth $100 million. But then when you start looking to the way it's broken down and some different things, and you look at what Christian McCaffrey would have cost if we waited 2 years to do this. What was the other option? Or not the other option. There's only really a couple of options. Do what the Panthers did, sign him, keep him this year, and then extend him in his fifth-year option. And then that probably is going to force or could force some sort of Le'Veon Bell moment that ruins everybody. It ruins the Panthers with the players. It ruins Christian McCaffrey's career by dogging him out. Or you could have released him after. And could he have held out this year, Cody?
So that was the rumor. That's what. And I don't believe I don't know. People keep on talking about hearing that we're trading Christian or Curtis Samuel, or that Cam wanted more money. There's a lot of rumors. One of those rumors was that Christian McCaffrey wasn't going to hold out if he didn't get paid, which, that's what a lot of people kind of thought anyway. I don't know if there was ever any substantiating that claim. I never heard it from a great source, but I mean, I imagine that after he saw what Ezekiel Elliott did and even Le'Veon Bell, and you have to know your leverage too. McCaffrey also knew, they lost Cam, Greg, all these incredible players. Like if he were to hold out, they would have had no choice. But I think the organization kind of got out in front of that and wanted to make it a point to get out in front of that.
I mean, he's definitely going to be the face. So, I mean, there's no point in not making the face of your franchise the highest paid guy. And granted, if we were to sign a quarterback in a couple of years, he's not going to be. But I mean, go back and look at Cam Newton. You were talking about them justifying him getting signed for $100 million, and you're right. When they made that big number out there, it sounded crazy. But by the time his contract was in its last year,
dude, they were paying. The next
cheap.
year they got Brock Osweiler was making more money than him. Kirk Cousins making more. Yeah, you're right. So it is. I would say the good thing about this is the Panthers, you either shit or get off the pot. Right. And and so they did make that decision. And really, I think is that without Christian McCaffrey this year, this team would have been unbearable. That's the one thing. Mm-hmm. Let's go on. What was the other component about Rich's call we want to talk about? Because after that, I want to ask you this question. The question we're going to move on to after we talk about Marty Hurney is, did the Christian McCaffrey contract change the Carolina Panthers draft at all? Right. Or solidify anything, or solidify that we're not doing something. But Marty Hurney, I saw someone tweet this out, is that Marty Hurney's been with the Carolina Panthers since he was 8. He said, I am now 30. What was this crazy story that you heard about what Matt Rule said about Marty Hurney?
So apparently this is Chris McClain retweeted this. This is on WFNZ AM. Matt Rule, I guess in an interview that he did with them, said that on who makes the final decision in the draft, Marty makes those decisions. One of the reasons I came here is I would be able to work hard and work hand in hand with him. I do my part to provide my feedback to him, but at the end of the day, Marty makes those calls. And if that okay, now we're going to talk about if you believe it or not, and which is fine. But if let's just say that it is true, dude, that shit terrifies me, man. Dude, in my mind, Marty Hurney is the last the last holdout of a regime that we have moved on from. He's great in the. We've all talked about this.
We've all said you should fire Marty Hurney after Thursday of the draft. It's like Friday morning, you are relieved of your duties, sir.
Done it after the Thursday of last year's draft, man. I'm sorry. I have no faith in the man. If you and I agree with what Richard Kingston's saying. If you look at the people that we've interviewed, and obviously they're not going to, let every name out there that they've interviewed, but if you look at moving up for Greg Little, drafting Will Grier, if you want to say this is a Ron Rivera thing, but Christian Miller never saw a ton of playing time. Jordan Scarlett has been
because I told you guys you guys cannot get high on any defensive end. And excuse me, I'm about to sneeze. There's only like 5 of them that come into the league and are great right away. They're so rare. A defensive end is a 3-year work in progress. Mm-hmm. So Christian Miller shouldn't have seen any time last year.
Yeah, but maybe.
Marquise Haynes should be seeing time. It's starting to get in there now. It's a 3-year thing. Who was it? Charles Johnson. He came into the league and he had Julius Peppers on the other side. It was his 3rd year he broke out.
Oh. Well, hey, man, I need to start working on being a better farmer, man, because I've been planting all these seeds the last few weeks and now they're starting to sprout. You hear everybody calling Matt Rule and Tepper a liar. I've been saying that for weeks, man, and people have been calling me salty and all kinds of other different names, and now we got a bunch of people climbing that hill with me. I'm telling you, man, it's just the way it is. And the fact that he even says that Marty Hurney is the guy that makes the calls goes back on something he said a few weeks ago about Joe Brady being there. Joe Brady's here because I'm here. I'm the one who makes the decisions on offense and what we do. That he said that Tepper gave him that was one of his things. Tepper gave him that ability. So,
So when do we want to call bull? We know we're calling bullshit. First of all, what level of truth? Do you think there's truth to this, Cody? Because I say bullshit. I say when they say they work hand in hand, is that Marty Herney is doing the work of Matt Rule out there right now. Like, why do we got Robbie Anderson? Why do we got Teddy Bridgewater? Why do we got this what all of a sudden Marty Herney fell in love with Temple and Baylor players?
Yeah, and there's no doubt. There is no doubt that Matt Rule weighs
his fingerprints are all over this
of Marty Herney. But the answer me this, and then so then really tell me that. What is Marty Herney doing that some other fucking guy couldn't do the same thing? Like, why does why is Marty Herney still here? That's an open-ended question. Someone please tell me, because he's obviously still he's going to be gone. This organization for a reason.
He's going to be gone after. The question is when? Is it before training camp? Is it after training camp? Is it after the draft? Does anybody on this panel believe that Marty Herney will be a major part of this organization after 2020? My answer is no. I would be surprised if he makes it to Christmas.
I'm not surprised. I think David Tepper fucking loves him, or else he would have been gone.
Well, David Tepper thinks he's pretty good. Remember, he did say that. He's pretty good.
He is pretty good. He's an all-world evaluator of talent, and he's
not pretty good. It was good. Not bad.
Not bad GM.
He's not a bad GM. That's what he said. But no, I think he's gone after 2020. But I think he's gone based on what we do next year. It depends. If they're wanting to tank next year and we don't, he's gone. If we're wanting to be a productive team next year, which I don't see how that's happening, and we don't, he's gone. He's going to be the scapegoat for whatever happens. If there's success, it's going to be Matt Rule and David Tepper that had the success. Marty Herney was the reason we weren't before. If there's going to be failure, well, it's because we had Marty Herney around. Now we've got to move on to the new regime. He is the scapegoat, man. There's no. I don't see how people can't see that. That's exactly
there
what it
is. So I know you've been planting these seeds and nourishing them and watering them weekly on the podcast. So as somebody who was so, I thought this Matt Rule thing, I just love, I'm always like people who speak well. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like I fell in love with Obama, and half of it was because of that, is that this emotional component to it. You know, it's kind of like what they teach you in literature as the pathos, right? So I was so pumped about the Matt Rule thing, but the one fear I had when it came to college, and I've said this, consistently, is that the real question of how Matt Rule acclimates to the NFL is how he acclimates to the NFL, not to football. Not to football. It's like the game of football is, and coaching and that is easy. Not easy, but that is something that he has experience with. It's the NFL world that is different. That is different with dealing. And this has been a challenge, it seems like, for people who were very successful in the college world that came to the NFL and had challenges, i.e., you could look to Nick Saban, i.e., you could look to the Philadelphia, who was the Chip Kelly?
Chip Kelly, yeah.
And the idea is that we can do this and it will translate and it's going to work. One of the things in the call that Rich said is that they don't like any men on this team. Do you think there are any? This is my fear. My secret fear is that as we acquired all of the Baylor people, as we acquired all the Temple people, and I agree with you, Cody, from the weeks that nepotism is throughout. So I've been trying to say Robbie Anderson is good no matter where he played at. So I'm trying not let that, but it's like a little wisp of smoke. You know what I'm saying? Every time you get like one Temple or Baylor player, like, oh, familiarity, wisp of smoke. And then you see the jettisoning of these people who to me, the Eric Reed one doesn't make sense. Like, I don't understand the Eric Reed move on a football side when your personnel is weak there. It's been weak. You already paid them. You know what I'm saying? Is that unless you just think you're going to cycle in some bum back there, is this another wisp of smoke to a fire that Matt Rule is trying to create like a college environment. Because I tell you, one dude who is anti-college environment is Eric Reed. Eric Reed is always super vocal about how the machine of college football is, basically
NCAA.
Yeah, is like taken away from the players. Yeah, he looks at the LSU locker room, and he was talking about the upgrades that he was like, this is better than NFL locker rooms, and you ain't paying these guys.
If you're seeing them, they are.
So it's these things that are the fear I have in my back of my mind, that is this where Rule is going to struggle with, is the creating the pro football culture.
I think so. I mean, there's no way. There's no way of knowing that. But based on what Cody you were saying earlier, analytics and history of what's going on, it doesn't look like that's the case.
The Rudy story, the Rudy type story works with players who are undrafted free agents, who are journeymen. But superstar people who have always been the best, who have been successful from the moment they walked in the league, and who get paid a shit ton of money, I don't know if you're going to be able to rah-rah them to success all the time. And that is my kind of fear here, is that, and maybe is the Christian McCaffrey signing an endorsement of, hey, Christian McCaffrey is one of those guys that you're going to put in any place, like he's going to go with the flow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's my fear. I don't think it's real. I don't think we have enough evidence, but that's the secret fear of the Matt Rule. If he's going to fail, it's not because he doesn't understand football.
Yeah. And, I kind of think that, again, even after all we've talked about, I don't think there is enough evidence to be 100% a believer in Matt Rule. And I also don't believe there's enough evidence to 100% be a hater, because I don't think you can judge a man when he hasn't even coached the season in the NFL.
No, we don't know anything about him yet.
So yeah, that's my point. And
that's why I'm not excited about Joe Brady either, though. I know you guys are so excited about him. I'm just like, hey, I hope it works, but we got to see.
No,
I'm more excited about Joe Brady because he knows more about the Saints offense than anybody we've ever had in our franchise. So, I think
including our defensive coordinators.
Exactly.
And that's why, I've never come down on Greg that much for not believing in Matt Rule, because it's like, based on some of the things that have happened, I understand why there are people that aren't ready to jump on board yet when you've said one thing about Cam Newton, then done another thing, and you've bounced around in all these different directions. And we didn't even talk about the Matt Rule interview, where Matt Rule was basically saying that Teddy Bridgewater was just a better fit for.
Okay, I want to talk about this. This is the moment I soured on Rule.
Yeah, that was it. And I don't blame anyone for hearing that interview and being like, all right, dude, you're the coach, man. That's not the decision I would have made.
The problem I have with his comments, and I saw them, I did not get to hear them in context, so I'm trying not to go over crazy. And I need to hear how they were presented, because I was reading the reporters tweeting out the quotes, right? And the quote that really bothered me was that I don't even know if it was an actual statement, but there was this sense of certainty that Teddy Bridgewater was the right direction, like a good direction. And I just don't understand how you could be so certain about that, as well as uncertain about Cam Newton. It's just like, hey, we looked at all the options and we felt like this was best for the team. And I was like, why? Why do you feel that Teddy Bridgewater is best for the team? Is it got to do with money? He did say that it felt natural because of his relationship with Joe Brady.
Before we go any further, shout out to the homeboy, my cousin, Chef Jeff, for the 420 donation in the chat.
Comes in with high style.
Oh, shit.
Random number this time of year.
That's high class.
when the pimp's in the crib, I'll drop it like it's hot. That's what Chef Jeff just did to our chat room. He dropped it like it's hot.
So what did you think about that? What is the certainty? Is it because Teddy Bridgewater's safe?
Do y'all want to go first? Y'all know how I feel. Y'all have heard my life.
Is Teddy Bridgewater safer in their eyes than Cam Newton?
Listen, you never go with the option that's safe. You go with the option that you love more. That's just the way it is, because you're going to end up happier with the option you love more than the safe option. Now, if you don't love anybody, then that's a little different. I mean, maybe Matt Rule didn't love Cam Newton, even though he said
obviously he
didn't to play with him.
I think you run into the same situation. I think you go with the one you love. You're right, and I think Joe Brady loves Teddy Bridgewater more than he loves Cam Newton because he knows what he's getting.
God, that's some
so you're saying
stupid
Joe,
so all of a sudden
that much of the show?
What'd you say? I didn't catch that, Greg.
I'm saying you think Joe Brady's running the show that has that much say?
He's running
what's
the
going
offense.
on.
I think he has a big. I think he has a big piece to the offense moving because, obviously Rule is going to have a big portion of it. But I think when you talk about an offense and what type of quarterback you want in the backfield, who are you going to ask? You're going to ask your offensive coordinator, who's going to be drawing up the plays, who's going to be creating the playbook, who's going to be putting you in a position to be able to have those players contribute. And if he likes what Teddy Bridgewater gives him more than what he perceives Cam Newton to be able to give him, that's probably why you run into that. But I think you're right. I think you have to pick who you love more than who is less of a who's the safe option. And honestly, they may have felt that Cam was the safe option.
Wow,
Maybe.
brother
Brother
Herbert says Cam can't stay healthy. That's why. Ben S in the chat room says Teddy is a smokescreen to make it look like we're not tanking. And I saw a draft where Tua T dropped to the Jaguars. The Panthers passed on him. Oh my goodness!
There's no way unless there's some crazy situation where Joe Brady. I had this conversation with a buddy today. Unless there is a situation where Joe Burrow falls to us in some way, shape, or form, some miraculous, we are not taking a quarterback in this draft in this first round.
Lies, man. If Tua is there,
I think
we're taking him.
There, you got to take him.
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
gotta take him.
So let's put the tinfoil hats on. There was a report that there were 2 football teams picking in the top 10 that had looked at the medicals and his throwing session / pro day thing that he did, and they failed him. They gave him a failing grade,
which is bullshit. I watched that video. Did you fail him?
Well, it wasn't just it was more the medicals. It wasn't just that video. It was the medicals. And I mean, we don't know that the Panthers weren't one of them. I mean, the fact of the matter is we just don't know. And a lot of people online
is pretty low.
A lot of people
2 out of 32
online,
teams.
A lot of people online did kind of think that maybe it was the Panthers. I don't know. I do agree with CK though. I think that even if Tua does fall, I don't think that that we're taking a quarterback this year unless they're in love with Justin Herbert, which I'm not saying that's what I think will happen, but I'm not surprised if it does.
Any team that takes Justin Herbert over Tua is making a grave mistake.
You realize he's been hurt every season that he was in college.
Yeah, and
every season. It wasn't just 1 or 2 seasons.
Tua is going to be the one player that was injury prone in college that is not injury prone in the pros, Cody.
One player that ever happened to.
Didn't we have a long conversation about that last week? Yeah. Is that all right? Did you watch? I watched the highlights to his video though, and my mug looked nice.
Highlights,
dude. His footwork is so tight and awesome.
I'm not saying he doesn't have the capability of being good, but I'm telling you, like once again, highlights are also what they released. Right, that's what they want you to see. They're not showing. Same thing with Cam's videos, right? How many of those balls did he overthrow? How many did he underthrow? How many times they're not putting that on those videos because guess what? That hurts their stock if people see any weakness in their game.
But it was like the NFL that put out that tweet. It wasn't his people.
Right. And Tua Tagovailoa.
It was the highlights, though.
Better. Yeah, well, Tua Tagovailoa could have put up better stats than Joe Brady did last year. You got to remember, this guy didn't play a lot of the second half of football for most of his career because he was beating the crap out of everybody so bad they sat in the last half of the game.
If you watch Joe Brady, I know Cody would tell you more about this. If you watch or Joe Burrow, you would know that there is not a chance in the world that Tua would have touched the numbers that Joe Burrow had last year.
Yeah, I mean, so listen, my doubt is not about the talent of the player. I mean, in my mind, I do compare him to Drew Brees. I think he's a little bit too mobile for his own good. I think he thinks that he's tougher than his body has proven to be able to hold up to. But yeah, the talent is not in question. You're going to have a good offensive line in front of him. I mean, that's why, and I was even talking to my brother about this. Dude, if I'm the Saints, I'm trading picks to go up to get Tua and let him sit behind Drew Brees and that good offensive line. Which I hope that doesn't happen.
I want us to pick him. I want us to pick him at 7.
Yeah,
dude.
I mean, so listen, he's incredibly talented, but again, just like I'm not gonna look at the McCaffrey thing with the rose-colored glasses as someone who is trying to be the best possible scout that I can for doing this for a website. You cannot look at the amount of injuries that Tua has had in college and then say that doesn't matter.
Could you have said the same about Jadeveon Clowney, though?
Yeah, I wasn't.
And I don't think that's a great comparison because Clowney has been dealing with injuries throughout his career in the NFL.
Well, it's not even injuries. He's never been like number one at his position or like an elite player like people thought
he's been
out
good.
Of college.
He's been
very good.
The last couple of years,
he's never been 10+ sacks a year.
Yeah, but
exactly.
And you think you should.
He's still getting better, though. I think he's at the peak of what he's been the last 3 years.
Still a free agent, isn't he?
He doesn't have a lot of
nobody else
money. It's because he wants nobody's able to actually evaluate his health. Nobody's able to actually give him a physical. I think that has a lot to do with the Browns are heavily interested, but they can't actually give him the physical to be able to actually give it. Go in and actually give him the offer that he wants. I think he's asking for too much money with what's going on in the world. But nonetheless, I agree with the comparison with Clowney because Clowney was injury prone and he continued to be injury prone to where he missed his entire rookie season. He's missed multiple games, throughout every season he's been in for the most part. I mean, he has not been this, if you're going to use him for the comparison for Tua, then I think you run into the exact same situation. And you got to remember, Cody, would you say that Alabama's offensive line is good?
It's a factory of NFL offensive linemen.
Yeah.
It's
good, right? And he still has been injured every year.
Well, okay, so let's talk about those injuries super quickly, though. Is that they were both the type of high ankle sprain, right? High ankle. Was it high ankle or low?
I think it was a high ankle.
I think it was high, and they were both one of those that either takes a long time to get over naturally, or you can have surgically fixed, which he did. Those things really didn't he was actually able to play faster and come back from those. It was the hip that's the kind of fluky one.
Right. But during his
ankles, man, everybody, that's like saying a basketball player twists his ankle.
During his freshman season, he injured his wrist on his non-throwing hand in training camp, like before the season started, and it didn't heal until way later on in the season. And apparently, he had re-injured that throwing wrist at some point down the road. I mean, it's not non-throwing, but still, you're talking about a player whose bones have kind of not proven to be able to take a pounding.
And his response, in my opinion, his quote responding to people criticizing his inability, it did not bode well for me. It didn't give me confidence in his
What did he say?
He basically said, "I play a physical sport." Like it's really what he kind of boiled down to.
And on top of that, a lot of his injuries, and he might be able to have a say-so in fixing this, is when he tries to be Russell Wilson. He tries to extend the play, and sometimes it works, and it's incredible. I mean, the dude is talented. There is no doubt about that. But when it doesn't go right sometimes, he ends up paying the price.
Shout out to Susan Deans, the Den Mama in the house here, checking out to see what the chat room's doing. Thank you for your support. She gave the show $14.99. Thank you, all of you, for tuning in. There's 43 people watching the show right now. Smash the thumbs up button.
She said, "Who was picking on me?" Don't worry, Susan. It's just Ken Dye's burner account. He'll be okay.
Go ahead and smash the thumbs up button. Subscribe to the show. And remember, the phone number is 252-228-5098. Go ahead, Greg.
Well, I just want to point out, because we're all doing this, so I'm not pointing anybody out, is like we got to stop. Well, not we got to stop, because that's the point of the argument, is we always do the argument of, well, history shows us this and history shows us that, but we only bring that up if it doesn't affect our argument. I mean, history can show us all kinds of things. Like you can look at a history-prone quarterback in the college. That doesn't guarantee he's going to be like that in the pros. Just like you can look at a pro coach coming out of college, college coach coming out of college going to the pros and not being successful. It normally doesn't work out. A team tanking, it normally doesn't work out. But just because the statistics or the analytics say it normally doesn't work out, doesn't mean you sometimes shouldn't take the chance.
Let me ask
you feel and what you want.
When it comes to Tua, if Tua was there in the second round, would you take him?
Yes.
Oh, of course.
It'd be
so
hard,
why
man.
wouldn't you take him at 7?
Why wouldn't I take him at 7?
You know what I'm saying? Is that if you would take him in the second?
Okay, but it's that injury. Because if you're going to draft in the top 10, you want to have almost a 99% certainty that you're going to draft a Hall of Fame. I mean, that's what you want. You want to draft a surefire starter, Hall of Fame. You know you're going to be able to bank the rest of your future on a player like this. And with the injury concerns, that's what moves him out of that range, because you don't know that. And people forget that these teams are making an investment on these players of millions and millions of dollars. So you're going to sink millions of dollars into a player that might not even be able to finish his first contract. I mean, that's a legitimate point,
Would you be upset if we drafted Tua over Herbert? What about this? Is it worth the risk though? That's for me, is that sometimes it is worth the risk. And Tua, he's kind of got that it factor. He was moving on that field, dude. His feet were working just damn fine in that video. If they drafted Herbert over Tua or vice versa, would you be upset? Which one would you be upset with?
I don't know if I'd be upset with anything. I'm just saying that I don't think that the Panthers are in the running to draft any quarterback. I think that it's a situation where they're happy with what they have, and if they tank, they tank. If they don't, then great. Let's continue to move forward and hope that success continues. But I personally, I agree. I think Tua has a lot of the tools that you need. Herbert, in my opinion, is the better route. You have
practicing my. Oh shit!
Go to sleep.
I personally would take Herbert over Tua just because of the risk factor. That you have.
Oh
like
my
you said,
gosh.
It's if you're drafting the top. Let's put it into perspective. And I'm not going to use this as an injury prone, but I'm going to also use this as an example. How much better would the Cardinals be had they not drafted Rosen and built a team around Kyler Murray instead of letting Josh Rosen go after one season? That ruined them. I mean, he was drafted high. That's
Josh Rosen was drafted 10th.
Yes. And that sets you back. If you think about who was drafted after him.
All right, but Josh Rosen's problem wasn't injuries, though. It just
I know,
didn't
but-
work.
Right.
Lamar
wasn't
Jackson
good.
was drafted after.
Exactly.
I'll say-
But what my point is if it does not work, if Tua comes out and he gets hurt immediately, you have to start considering the next year. Okay, that was not a good idea, right? And then all of a sudden you're set back because the guy you thought was your franchise.
But
future,
you don't have to. Yeah, I just like the idea is you don't have to play Tua this year, and that would give him plenty of time to get fully healthy.
Who would draft him and not play him at this year? Do you think
we could?
No,
it's possible. Well, I also think that you're only screwed if you trade up for that pick.
Yeah,
and it doesn't work out. Like, I mean, because think about it. Like the Cardinals drafted Rosen, he was garbage. They got rid of him. They ended up getting Kyler Murray. I think that worked out pretty well for him to have a top 10 pick be a bust.
correct. But think about who they passed up on for that 10 spot. Who did they?
Do you think that person they passed up on was better than Kyler Murray?
I'm saying there are probably about 25 other players in that draft that were.
They could have got Minka
Josh Rosen.
Fitzpatrick. They could have gotten Vita Vea, who has been injury.
Kyler Murray the next year.
Deron Payne,
one of those players.
Marcus Davenport. I did. How this is that? Would you feel more comfortable picking them at 17?
Yeah, I feel like the later half of the first round I'm okay with. The first 10.
Then I think we should pick him at 7 if that's how you feel. Do you think he'll slip?
If here's what the only scenario I could see us taking Tua is if we trade back. And the people that I would say we trade back with would most likely be the Browns. I think the Browns need a linebacker. And if Isaiah Simmons is on the table, we trade back to 10 plus whatever else they have in the draft. And then they get Isaiah Simmons. We get Tua at 10. I'm cool with that. You know, I'm not happy that it's a top 10 pick, but, you know, that I could see a situation we could be in.
If we drafted Justin Tua, or I said Justin Tua, if we drafted Tua or Justin Herbert, I probably would put on the rose-colored glasses a little bit.
Yeah, I would.
But I think that both of them are good. And it's very popular to shit on Justin Herbert. I think when you put Justin Herbert in a system that actually benefits him and his strengths, I think the dude's going to be dynamite. But if we drafted either of them, I'm not upset. But I would still, you know, I would choose to be optimistic about Tua and be like, all right, well, we did it. I love the player. I love the personality. I love what he's able to do on the field as a healthy football player. Let's just hope he doesn't get hurt. You know, that'll be my mindset. But no, I'm not upset with either of those two, to be honest. But,
okay, my question then goes to this: knowing how we feel about, you know, players like Isaiah Simmons and Okudah, if both of those guys are on the board along with Tua, which we know that's not going to happen. All three of those guys are not going to be in the board at 7. But let's say that is.
Right.
We trade back to 10 to let the Browns come up and pick Isaiah Simmons, and then we get Tua. Are you happy with the decision to go with Tua instead of Isaiah Simmons?
Well, the only thing about that is you trade back to 10, there's no guarantee you're going to get Tua. I would be comfortable with that if they were going to do something like that. I'd rather have Simmons than Tua, personally. Just rather have Simmons than Tua.
Yeah.
But if you're going to trade back for that, it's got to be a situation where it's not a trading back. It's we are guarantee you we'll draft this player if you guarantee you draft that player and we trade type deal.
Right.
Because there's no guarantee they'll be there. Well, I guess
Tua's got the Russell Wilson gene in him. I know that he's not your player comp, right, Cody? But when I say the Russell Wilson gene, Russell Wilson for a long time in those early parts of his career would just throw up a prayer and it would be answered by Jesus every time.
Yeah, he has that Jesus juice.
Yeah, he would run around out there. He would duck. He would do all the things that Cam does on his own. And then he would just chunk it down there and win the game.
Yeah.
That's Tua's got that in him. And when they brought him in, what was it? Was it the year they played Georgia in the Did they play Georgia in the national championship?
Yeah,
what was the year they brought Tua in
Yeah.
in like the third quarter, and all of a sudden?
So they played Jalen Hurts all year, and then in the national championship game against Georgia, Hurts was missing throws downfield. They put in Tua,
and he was dynamite. He was amazing.
And he wins it in overtime on a beautiful rail shot pass.
That's why I want Tua.
Big game potential.
That is the unquantifiable.
Then you wouldn't want to trade down for him. If he's
yes, that's why I want to take him right at 7. If he's there, my thought is he just won't be there at 7.
I don't think he will either. I think Miami's taking him.
I'm not mad at Tony for wanting to. I mean, listen, if he does pan out, the guy does. I mean, he is an incredible player.
Yeah,
and he is right about the Jesus stuff. Him and Russell Wilson talk about Jesus a lot, and good for them. But yeah, he is right though. He does have that ability to kind of throw up a crazy ball. I mean, dude, he knows where his receivers are going to be, and that's why you would draft him. Because, dude, he is methodical.
And the crazy thing is, he's the opposite. He's really strong at the things that people are critical of Cam about.
Which were bullshit, but, you know.
Well, no,
everyone already says that, right? Cam Newton's nuts too much.
I'm gay for Cam. But if there were there are weaknesses. There are weaknesses in Cam's game, or the weaker parts of his games. I don't even say you could just say they aren't his strengths.
Yeah.
The two things that weren't Cam's strengths were footwork in the pocket. That is, he's so long. He was so long that he would take a step. So a 5-step drop was hard. It wasn't that it was hard, like he didn't know what to do, but I would say that Cam didn't always climb the pocket the best, right? Is that because you let those DNs go past you, then you step up, and if that center, sometimes the defensive linemen, the D tackles were on his lap. That's different. But I would say Cam, but I would say if there was something, you always wish Cam's footwork was better. Throwing off his back foot when it was clean, when he was not rushed, when he wasn't under duress, he was great, right? And that was because. All right. And then the other thing about Cam, though, is that Cam didn't really throw receivers open that much.
Right.
That I disagree with.
Cam, no, what I mean is Cam is not he doesn't lead the guy as much. He doesn't throw to where they're going to be. Cam had to see it a little bit more. And what I mean by that is he had to see the guy get open than just anticipating. I'm not saying he didn't do it, but that was, if you're going to look at him in comparison to other great quarterbacks, those are the things that he could work on and improve. I feel like those are two of his strengths.
There are definitely some strengths of Tua, but the reason why I said it's not that I disagree with that assessment on Cam. I just think that you have to play that kind of football when you're throwing to Devin Funchess and Kelvin Benjamin. They're not getting a bunch of separation anyway, so you're having to put it right on the gnat's ass, right in front of them. But
they're not running routes crisply. There's you've got to let's look at the history of the Panthers receivers. Have we ever had a wide receiver run a route better than Christian McCaffrey?
Steve Smith, and in that initial Cam's rookie season, Steve Smith had 1,400.
He did, yeah. But I watched Cam, and he throws to the spot you're at rather than the spot you're gonna be a little bit more. Now I did want to bring this up is in lieu of your argument, in favor of your argument that he didn't have the people to do it. I happened to be watching when I was on the sports bar on Fridays. I'm on Pirate Radio 1250. You can download the Pirate Radio app and check me out. Susan listens on Pirate Radio. Clip, the guy who runs the show, it's a daily show, sports show. He's been a friend of mine all my life. He's in my kindergarten class, but he's a Redskins fan. And so he had the 2016 Panthers Redskins. It was a Monday night football game. We were on the road in Washington. We actually won the game. You could tell Cam Newton's shoulder was already hurt. So it wasn't just the Tampa Bay game that killed Cam. Unless that was after the Tampa Bay game. He was wincing, and he went down. He was wincing. That shoulder was bothering him. But I tell you one thing, is Kelvin Benjamin was a big waste. You cannot overblow how terrible he was. Like, if you just told me that he was the worst motherfucker in the world and this and that, and then you went and watched it, you would be like, oh, he's exaggerating. No. He was a fucking abysmal, dude. He was barely playing.
He ended up that way. He started out as a good receiver. Like I said, look at the stats. He had a better rookie year than Julio Jones did.
And then he put it on him.
Well, okay, either way.
And he was young, and he was cited about in the league, and he was sick of people talking about how shitty he was.
Those are all caveats to the argument. It still doesn't change the fact that he had a great rookie season, and then after his injury, he came back, and I think he had a 1,000-yard season after his injury.
No, he didn't come back. He tore his ACL his sophomore year.
His sophomore year. But I'm saying after that injury, he came back and had a 1,000-yard season. I thought, didn't he?
No, 2016 was not
a great year.
Yeah,
okay. I'm not wrong about that.
Hold on, I'm gonna look it up because I think he came back and he added a couple of decent games, and he had 941 yards in 2016.
Which, by the way, is not number one wide receiver stats. I'll give you that. But it's not garbage stats.
Listen to this, though. You want to know why he had numbers? They targeted him 145 times his rookie year. He had 118 targets. Yeah, but let's look at what DJ Moore had last year.
Dude,
even his incredible season, he only had 1,000 yards. Like, he was 1,008 yards.
Well, how about this?
DJ Moore had 135 targets last year.
Right,
that is a lot.
And how many yards did he have
last year? So I mean,
he had 1175. So I mean, you're right. Is they did target the shit out of that. Might not be as abnormal as I thought it was.
I don't think it is. Yeah.
But if what you were talking about, Tony, things that Tua does well that Cam is perceived to have kind of not done so well. And one of them that I think is legitimate that I don't think Tua does is when Cam Newton does have a number one wide receiver, I do think he tend to hone in on them.
Yeah.
Whether that was Steve Smith, whether that was Christian McCaffrey, whether that was Kelvin Benjamin. And I do think that was a legitimate criticism of Cam.
Or Greg Olsen.
Yeah, Greg Olsen. And Tua definitely doesn't do that. He is a distributor of the football. And that's why I think 2015 was such a blessing, because Cam Newton had to be a distributor. And look what happened.
Yeah.
I think Cam was getting better at all of those things.
I do too. When you look at how his 2016 was going, or 2017 or 2017. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, we were playoff bound in 2017, right? 11-5.
Yeah.
2018 was
2018 is when we took the step backwards when he got his arm hurt. But I mean, even when you look at that was one of the things that they were praising him about, was he was spreading the ball around so well. It wasn't just Christian.
Yeah,
McCaffrey.
It would be every week. It was like 10 receivers had catches on the Panther. 10 different people.
And his accuracy was off the charts. I mean, he wasn't lighting up the scoreboard, but I mean, he was getting the ball to the people that needed to be. He was getting first downs, and he was letting these players actually do the work. We weren't seeing the deep ball by that. I mean, still at that point in time, there was a lot of quick passes and everything, but I think that once again we run into that situation where we didn't have a clear number one wide receiver on the team, and so we were forced to distribute it, and that's what he was doing.
I mean, we heard though that there are some there's some real things about what I was saying with Cam and how far back he went. Remember when Ron Rivera gave us the stupid thing is like Matt Khalil is not bad. He's just trying to figure out how the chemistry with Cam, because Cam drops back further. I mean, those are some things. Those are real things. It's just that Matt Khalil just happened to be terrible. It wasn't that was the problem with Matt Khalil at the moment. But, also Cam could do other things that other guys couldn't. So I'm not saying he was bad at them. But I think that when at least when I just watched what Tua did in that video, is his feet worked so they're just magical, man. It was just it was very sharp, and his feet were perfect every time, and that was very Russell Wilson-ish to me.
Absolutely. And listen, I'm not mad at you for liking Tua, and like I even said, if we drafted Tua, I would certainly put on the rose-colored glasses for a little while and say, if we're gonna bet the future on someone, I'm gonna do my best to hope that he stays healthy. I'm hoping that he would buck the trend and actually be able to maintain health. But if that happened, dude, we have to build that wall like we never did for Cam. We have to build an offensive line and just make Tua be a distributing weapon that moves the ball downfield and can do that kind of thing. Very much how the Saints have built their offense around Drew Brees. And I do feel like with Matt Rule and Joe Brady, it would be very easy for them to build that kind of offense for Tua to get behind. Now, do I trust Marty Herney to build that offensive line? Fuck no, bro. But I would be happy if we drafted him. But I'm just trying to be a good podcast host and present both sides and say that it is very real that most times when a player has been hurt in college, it is very, very, very rare that ever changes in the NFL. I hope it does. I want it to work out for him. The NFL is so much better when you have star quarterbacks playing at a high level. I want him to be successful no matter where he goes. And he's just a humble dude. He's a good worker. I want him to work out. But you have to be real.
Here's where I think I have a sneaky feeling that if he's there, the Panthers would get him. And I think it might actually is that if somehow Miami gets gun shy, which I don't think they will, but if somehow, I think it would be a great move for the team. Because here's the thing, it's going to be hard for me to forget Cam. Right? Yeah. And it's going to be hard every time next season that we lose, that Bridgewater does something that's not perfect, for me not to go, man, I miss Cam. I think that it takes a special name, or not just a name, but a special player to replace that kind of void. I don't know if Justin Herbert has got what it takes for me personally. To me, just go, but I think it would be a lot easier to look forward with Tua in a Panthers jersey and me being like, oh, shit, it's going to happen. And that's why.
Justin Herbert, I mean, granted, there's an obvious difference between the two of them, but Justin Herbert is a lot more comparable to Cam Newton than Tua Tagovailoa. Now,
it's a personality. It's not. It's like a. It's just a. Yeah, it's just there. It's all of a sudden I would have a Tua jersey the first day. I don't know if we draft. Well, maybe I'll get that Simmons jersey if we get him, because that's just freaky. Everybody's gonna love that. But I don't know. I'm interested in it. It would make me feel good. We got one more cat call. Let's get to it before it gets too late.
Hey everybody, this is Anthony from California.
What's up, Anthony?
I just wanted to say I'm glad Christian McCaffrey signed a good deal, and also I'm excited for the draft coming up. We need offensive line for sure. But I'm just super excited, also hoping, for just a good draft pick, a couple good picks, build our roster up. All right. God bless you guys. Go Panthers.
Man, thank you. Let's turn our attention to the draft. There is that now. I asked you this a long time ago. Does Christian McCaffrey, how does it shape the future of the Panthers, or at least in the near future in this draft, as we solidified him as the running back? And, I mean, obviously we're not drafting a running back.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but to me it has almost no standing whatsoever. I mean, because we already talked about, there was almost no way for the Panthers to go into next season Christian McCaffrey less after the type of offseason that we've had. If you look at almost all the mock drafts, whether it be from Draft Tech, brand new one tomorrow, by the way, be on the lookout. Interesting first and second round picks, so be on the lookout. Shameless plug. But, I mean, if you look at any mock draft that's out there, most every player that they have us taking is a defensive player. It's either Isaiah Simmons, Derek Brown, Jeffrey Okudah, and on the rare occasion that you do see a mock draft with an offensive player, it's either a receiver because of Joe Brady's system and what he did at LSU, which I would lose my mind if we drafted a receiver.
If we got Jerry Jeudy, would you be upset at 7?
In my mind, if you use the top 10 pick, that would say that you're tanking. Because you know how bad the defense is. You've done most of your work in free agency on the offensive side of the football, and you're going to use the top 10 pick with incredible defensive players on a receiver.
I think it would be ludicrous. I think it'd be ludicrous.
I would be furious.
Can Jerry Jeudy be Julio? Could Jerry Jeudy be Julio, though?
Julio is 3 inches taller and 20 pounds heavier.
So then, no.
Yeah, I don't. Julio's a tough comparison, man. That guy's a physical monster.
Because that's the only thing that, to me,
injury prone.
The only thing that gets me when it comes to drafting a receiver in the top 10 I like is that you get the 5 years.
His route running, I will say this, his route running, and that is what I value most when evaluating receivers. His route running is sick. Absolutely nasty.
We can't take another receiver. We took a receiver in the first, last year?
And again, it's not an indictment.
Or was it 2 years ago? When did we get DJ?
2 years ago, DJ Moore.
Who we take first last year?
Brian Burns.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So
the forgotten man.
Yeah. Our best special teamer. Yeah. It's not an indictment on the player. And this is what I said when we were talking about McCaffrey earlier. I love McCaffrey, but you have to know how to play the draft. And with the defense how it is, and to draft a receiver in the top 10, we're not in the position to be doing that right now. We don't. I
think if we don't take a defensive lineman, I think it's just irresponsible to not take a defensive player, at this point. And I know that in the past, we would not have valued a corner as a top 10 pick. So that to me kind of pushes. Gettleman would never use a top 10 pick on a corner. So I do think that kind of lends more to us getting Simmons or more. But I think there might be a real chance that Simmons is not there.
Oh, he's not going to be there. I don't think he'll be there.
I do think an offensive player to take would be the quarterback, and boy, that would be a way to generate some excitement in Carolina.
100%. But when it comes to Simmons, what you were saying, though, it comes down to David Gettleman. And does he want to take another once-in-a-lifetime player, but this time on the defensive side of the football? Or do you want to protect the quarterback that you just drafted and the incredible running back that you have that you need to be able to run the football with? So, it's not set in stone because the Giants do have to build up a better offensive line. And by the time you hit round 2, there's a big drop-off after the big 4 in this year's draft, in my opinion. So after Riffs, Wilkes, Thomas, and Becton, it's a slippery slope from there. So, but then the Chargers might take him, and
Detroit could take Isaiah Simmons, dude.
Yeah, Detroit, the Chargers could take him and pair him with Derwin James, and good Lord. Yeah, we have some obstacles in front of us for Isaiah, but it's possible, you know.
If the Chargers took Isaiah Simmons, they would be so freaking nasty on defense next year. It would be insane, man.
Stupid.
Holy crap! I just thought about that. Wow.
Golly. Yeah. That's not that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't happen.
Tua, we're drafting Tua. Everybody 2 years ago was saying tank for Tua, and now people ain't even want to.
So do you think he'll be there though?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Is that I just don't know what Miami's going to do, and right now a lot of people are saying that people are just more interested in Justin Herbert.
Well,
and then all the things, and then you hear all you guys kind of saying, "Oh, you shouldn't take an injury-prone person in the top 10," and that, you know, is that I'm wondering if that is weighing on some people's minds, and I just wonder if it just seems this is all of a sudden Simmons is. I'm just looking at certain people climbing, and I haven't heard Tua climbing the draft board. I've heard Simmons climbing the draft board, and then I wanted to ask you about this. Is I heard some stupid shit about the Panthers drafting C.J. Henderson at 7.
No.
I heard one tweet that said 40% of GMs in the NFL like Henderson better than Okudah.
No way.
And 99% of all, 100% of all numbers are bullshit or something like that. I don't even know what the quote is. No. Dude, this is the smoke screen season. You have to remember that. There's not a lot of truth behind a lot of stuff that you hear. But I do believe the smoke behind the fire that the Dolphins might like Justin Herbert more than they do Tua. I've heard this over and over now from a bunch of different people. Again, who knows if it's true. But then does Tua make it past the Chargers? Because, I mean, are they going to start Tyrod Taylor? Maybe. Are they going to sign Cam Newton? Maybe. I don't know. We don't know. But there's no guarantee that Tua would even fall to us.
This is Bucky Brooks.
Straight up
Bucky Brooks' latest mock draft is Joe Burrow to the Bengals, Chase Young to the Redskins, Derek Brown to the Lions, Tristan, but he loves Derek Brown. He's he's just being consistent. Bucky Brooks has been, Tristan Riffs to the Giants, Justin Herbert to the Dolphins, Isaiah Simmons to the Chargers. Then he's got Okudah to the Panthers. You would not be upset with this, but Tua goes 2 picks later to the Jaguars.
Well, the thing is, you never know what's going to happen in the draft. And Cody, I think the quote you were looking for earlier was 60% of the time, it's right. It works every time. That's kind of the way you got to look at it with the draft. 60% of the time, it works every time. Yeah. I mean, think about it. Mitch Trubisky was drafted number 1 a few years ago.
Number 2.
Was he number 2? Okay. Even so.
Yeah.
Number 2. Coming out of North Carolina.
And they traded up for him.
And he played like 16 games in college, too. Like, it's insane what teams will think. You never know what a team's going to do. And I don't think a team's going to make a bonehead move like that this year like they did with Trubisky, but you never know what's going to happen, man.
I want Tua. That's what that's my new thing.
I want dance puppets.
I'm with you. You planted the seeds.
Dance puppets.
So, Tony, you would say that right now, if you had your pick of any player at all on that board, you're picking Tua. You want to?
No, I mean any player on the board. I want Chase Young.
Okay.
Hold on.
Fair.
If you're a quarterback, dude, nothing's more important than a quarterback. If you're in love with Tua, then he's gonna mean more to the team than even Chase. Chase Young is incredible, but a quarterback's a quarterback.
Well, you don't have you have no concern. First is a defensive end is right below a quarterback. They are the most disruptive. You put Chase Young with a Brian Burns. Oh, it's just sickness.
And not to mention,
what did I say last week on this podcast that I forgot to publish, by the way, until Sunday? because thank you, Sarah Taylor, for letting us know that the podcast was not it had been sitting there in drafts the whole week. Last week I just went on and on about how I wanted my headline to be Chase Young slips. So yeah, that's my guy. And I'm a little bit more, to be honest, is I would be more excited to get Chase Young or to get Tua than I would to get Isaiah Simmons.
And Cody, I want to say, and I got to look this up, but I'd be willing to bet that I'm right on this. I'm willing to bet you there's been more defensive ends in the top 10 over the last, let's just say, 15 years drafted that have won a Super Bowl than quarterbacks in the top 10 that have won a Super Bowl.
Ooh,
I'm gonna look that stat up. I can almost guarantee
that's
you
a hard stat to look up. By the way, imagine
that. You know why
that Google query is going to be plus parentheses plus parentheses.
Well, do you know why I say that? The only quarterback drafted in the top 10 in the last 15 years won a Super Bowl is Eli Manning. That's why I know I'm right about that. No other quarterback drafted in the top 10 has won a Super Bowl in the last 15 years. So it is important. You're right. But I think the last time you had a great quarterback and a great defensive player with Cam Newton and Von Miller, who ended up winning that battle?
But it was not just Von Miller. You're looking at
it wasn't just Von Miller, but would they have won that Super Bowl without Von Miller?
In a vacuum, though. So again, look at the last few defensive ends that have been taken number one. So Myles Garrett is looking. I mean, not Myles Garrett. Jadeveon Clowney looking for a team right now. Myles Garrett's going WWE on mofos and bashing them with helmets and shit.
He was just trying to put the helmet back on him.
Yeah. Being a gentleman.
Very forcefully.
I still have no ill will against him for that moment. I'm such in the minority. I still hate that.
No way, dude. Dude, that was assault with a deadly weapon, man.
It doesn't matter. Listen, if you believe that you have your quarterback of the future, then there is no one more important than that player. No one. Listen, I mean,
why don't the Redskins pick a quarterback then?
Well, if they believe in, they just spent a first round pick.
They're gonna pick up. Cam.
They don't believe in them though.
But maybe.
No, they don't. It's clear. They said Ron. No, first of all, hey, let me ask you this: do you think Ron Rivera is excited about molding a young player? No. Two, I heard Ron Rivera, my friend that's a Redskins fan, told me this. You guys will love this shit. He said that if the pandemic shit and the close down were to continue to affect the teams to where they can't practice and they missed a significant amount of training camp, that he would expect Kyle Allen to be ahead of Dwayne Haskins when they started the season. How much do you want to bet? I bet you money that if they don't get a quarterback, and I bet you money that Kyle Allen, if they don't add Cam Newton or a quarterback in the draft, Kyle Allen's their starter day one. It's glorious. Ha ha!
I wouldn't doubt it.
That'd be hilarious. That would be the ultimate Ron Rivera move.
Okay, so here, let me because you gave me a tough question. If I could have anybody, would Tua be it? And I'm kind of like, if I had Tua without you guys chirping in my ear about his injuries, I would be happy. What about this though? Is that what if we took, if we had the opportunity to get Okudah and Tua, and we picked Tua, would you be upset?
No, I wouldn't.
I don't think so. I think it gives you more potential upside. I do think Okudah could be one of those players that gives defensive coordinators so much latitude because they just don't have to worry about one side of the field. Those are rare occurrences, though. But here's Daniel Jeremiah's draft. He's got the Panthers drafting Derek Brown at 7. If somehow we draft Derek Brown and Tua's there, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be disappointed.
I'll be very upset if we draft Derek Brown at 7, regardless of who's there.
Yeah.
So can I kind of mention that you brought up C.J. Henderson too? There are a few players that I don't mind if we draft them I don't value them with the top 10 pick. CJ Henderson is one of them. Now for me, Derek Brown is one of them. I compare him a lot to Dexter Lawrence coming out last year from Clemson, my Clemson Tigers. I think if most of your value comes as being a space shooter and just drawing double teams away, and you don't have that much pass rush production or potential, then I don't value you with a top 10 pick. If I'm drafting the defensive tackle with a top 10 pick, I want you to be able to do a little bit of both and at a fairly high level.
You know who doesn't like you?
Who?
Star Latulele. And here, that's when we draft you to learn how to pronounce your last name. When we draft you, I will learn how to pronounce your last name. Star Latulele.
Lotulele. I can't stand it when sports announcers do that. Lotulele. Learn how to say it, man.
How about this? Is that he was a guy that was supposed to be a top 3 pick that dropped to us. I think we got him at 13. Maybe it was a little bit earlier. Maybe it was 10.
It was around that range.
He did change the team a lot, though. But here, again, Derek Brown or Tua. If we pick Derek Brown, you're like, how about this? Let me give you another name, Jedrick Wills. If we pick him and Tua's still there, are you okay?
Yeah.
Really?
Jedrick Wills is a badass. And it says to me that we're building an offensive line for either Bridgewater or a quarterback next year that isn't Teddy Bridgewater. So, yeah, I mean, that's a premium. Again, the irony, we build the wall that we've been talking about after we move on from Cam Newton. But Jedrick Wills would be a huge piece to that puzzle, yeah. But
I got to say, I'm going to be slightly disappointed. If we draft a top 10 tackle for the first time, we haven't been in the top 10 since Cam's been here. That's another, except for
Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
And maybe in 2013.
And
did we get a top?
DJ Moore.
No, he was he was 24.
Sorry.
Kuechly, that would have been 2012. And then we also
great.
2013.
Luke Hickson was number 9. Either 8 or 9. Yeah, I think it was 9.
Yeah, he was top 10. And let's see what we drafted in 2013. The Panthers we picked Star at 14. So we haven't had a lot of top 10 picks. We haven't drafted an offensive lineman in round 1 ever. It's in the last since Cam was here.
Since Gross is the last one we've drafted.
I was going to say Jordan Gross. Yeah. He may be the only offensive lineman we ever drafted round 1.
And what's funny is that only reason we got him was because of the Vikings messing up. That was when the Vikings didn't get their pick in time.
That's right.
They were suspected to take Jordan Gross had that not happened.
I don't know. I think I just want to be excited more than getting a defensive tackle. I want to be excited more than getting a offensive lineman, even though I understand it.
Sexy.
I do. Yeah. And I think Simmons gives an air of that because he's such a freak show.
See, the problem with drafting Tua again is that it's not going to be exciting because if we draft Tua, it is not a situation where Tua is getting reps this year. Unless Teddy Bridgewater just garbage.
Or he gets hurt.
I don't trust
He's injury prone.
Yeah, no, dude, that's another thing. I mean, I'm not very. I agree with Greg. I'm not very trusting that that Bridgewater plays the whole season.
So, with that question, would you rather have an injury prone Bridgewater or injury prone Tua?
Because I think he's a better passer, but.
So yeah, okay, just wondering. Actually,
all right. So how close are we to the draft? I do want to plug this. We are going to do our live draft show. It's next
9 days.
Shut up.
Yeah, 9 days.
He's serious.
Oh, it's early this year.
No, it's always around this time.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah, but sometimes it's the first week of May. It's like it's been, look, Thanksgiving was way early this year. And this feels, just maybe 4 or 5 days it feels earlier. But, wow, 9 days. We've got to put together a draft show every year on Thursday when they do the first round, we get up here, get drunk, and watch the NFL draft unfold.
Do we still do the Tuesday night?
Yes.
Okay. I was making
Tuesday, it will be a regular podcast.
That week.
Thursday, now we're going to have a bunch of people cycling in. I need to start going ahead. Go ahead and start putting your feelers out there on Draft Tech. What we want to look at are some, we don't want to jumble too many people guess around the same pick. So if we think of this year, we're going to be, the good news is we draft 7. So the show, I will be lucid when the Panthers draft. When we draft 27, one year I think last year I fell asleep in the draft show by the end. I know that.
So long last year it felt like, but it's going to be, even though we're drafting 7, you got to remember the crap show we're in for with the way that they're going to be drafting. It might end up being a lot longer than just drafting at 7. So
we get up here, hang out, and watch the picks live unfold. Cody will call them out because he usually has TV that's ahead of everybody else's. So we'll call out the draft, we'll react to it, and we got some great, it's been one of the great, cornerstones of this podcast. And it is a live draft party. And I tell you this is, people thought I was an idiot when I floated out there the idea of doing a live draft party. How many things?
Everyone's doing it.
Now, the COVID thing got us on board. My kids did a virtual Easter egg hunt in my grandparents' neighborhood. They had to walk around and take pictures of eggs in people's yards. And there could be not more than one family in a yard at a time. But here, we've been doing this virtual thing for a long time. NFL, if you want to hire me as a consultant, I'll be more than happy to. And I promise you, drunk Tony is just as interesting as sober Mike Kuiper.
Mel Kiper.
Mel Kiper. Whatever that dude's name is.
Oh, we're going to be lit, man. We want y'all to look for all the fans, all the listeners, everyone in the YouTube chat. We want y'all to look forward to the draft too. If you wanna come on and spend some time, again, we don't know how many people we're gonna end up having, but we always use this as an opportunity for our fans to take a moment to jump in, say what's up, give everybody a shout out, come and chill with us. We don't want to have too many people on at once because then it just becomes too much. But if you want to come on for a little while and shoot the shit, message me and Tony. Let us know. I mean, this is why we do the draft show, man. How about this? I'm not even on this show right now if it wasn't for the draft show. Because the first time I came on was when we drafted DJ Moore. And,
nice.
Yeah, the rest is history from there, man. So this is my anniversary too, bro. So yeah, dude, look, we're pumped. I'm pumped. Draft night is such a fun time. We're gonna kick back some alcohol, man. Whatever your drink of choice may be, we're gonna get loose. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna talk a bunch of shit, and it's gonna be a gang of fun, man.
Love it. Yeah, it's always a blast. Jay Cryer told me as he was living in England, now he lives in some gorgeous island outside of Spain. It's crazy. I'm going to go there one day. I showed my wife a picture of it. She was like, all right, I'll go with you. But he's going to stay. He always stays up late and tries to join the show. He missed last year because he's been growing up into an adult. But he said, I'm going to stay up this year, and we got an early enough pick for it to be reasonable. So we cycle in other analysts. We'll have the catcalls line open to hear your live reactions to not only the Panthers pick, but other things that are going on in the NFL draft. So be sure to be tuned in on Thursday night, 9 days from now, as the draft goes live. All right, I think we've pretty much hit about there's really no NFL news. Like, even across the NFL, I'm surprised there's not some last-minute free agent additions that people are talking about, but it's really, really quiet. The Panthers ran a story. This is how bad it is. The Panthers are up there celebrating Graham Gano on the website. This irks me more than anything. We got more fanfare for a guy who was put on injured reserve and almost cut over and over and over than any of our real players. Russell Okung also got in trouble, not trouble, but had some trouble getting home from the Cayman Islands amidst the travel. When I was in Italy, he ran into the same thing. The difference is he's rich and he's shacked up at a friend's house in Miami in a guest house for the last 3 weeks. My ass is back at work. Other than that, there is zero news in the NFL. The XFL did go kaput. I wanted to ask Greg this, but he was away when CK and I were talking about it. How much of the XFL is the XFL failing because of COVID? And how much is the XFL failing because COVID is really hurting the WWE? Because that's the cash cow, right? What I'm saying is that's the Vince McMahon's cash cow, and I felt like he could pay anything that the XFL required as long as the WWE is making money. The XFL didn't need to make money, but he was counting on the WWE just being its machine that it is, this massive cash cow, and I think that monetary hit is really the weakness, the financial weakness that precipitated the end of the XFL.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think that the reason why Vince McMahon would have been a success in the XFL is because he didn't need to make money for the first 3 years. So he could have taken chances. He could have, but maybe not even the first 3 years. He probably could have done it for 5 years and not made money and still been okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the wrestling industry is they make a lot of money. Like he has built a franchise with the WWE. I do think that it all has to do with COVID-19. I think that if COVID-19 didn't come around, man, we'd be probably in the XFL championships playoffs right now, and we'd be watching it. And we'd be watching it because it's football in March, April.
Yeah, I mean, I think their ratings fell significantly after the first week and things. But I think that the WWE is going to make so much money no matter what, you're going to be okay. But as that revenue is hitting, and you're having to contract there, and I'm sure that there is a giant hit to that revenue. They can't be having matches.
Well, they are. They're just doing it differently. I think
without audiences and yeah,
because they did WrestleMania like 2 weeks ago, and they even did it the first time I've ever seen it over a 2-night span. Where they had some matches on Saturday and some matches on Sunday.
And again, the part of it that I think you see venues starting to be impacted is you're not seeing ticket sales, right? You used to have packed out arenas with the WWE, and when they are just doing it for the advertisement aspect of things, I think people forget how much money these companies are making solely off of ticket sales. You know,
and then hot dogs and beers and all of
merchandise.
Yeah. I don't think the WWE survives off ticket sales, though, because I've gone to a ton of WWE events. And on TV, it looks really crowded on the lower levels. But if you go to an actual WWE event, they're usually not that crowded. And I know for a fact that, like, if you're military of any type, you can get into any WWE event for free except WrestleMania. Like, so I can go to anyone I want to for free.
But, even
I don't
so,
think ticket sales are that much.
Even so, with that, I mean, with the amount of people that are involved in it at that point, like that are actually down at the lower levels. I mean, you have as we talked about, the vendors, you have the merchandise, you have all of those pieces that are a part of it. And like you said, I mean, you're going to have a more of an excitement level when it comes to the bottom line of people wanting to watch. So I think that's impacting it as well.
Right. Well, I think where they make their most money though is their advertising and their
TV deal.
WWE's a lot of TV deals. They have a lot of TV shows. They really do.
Sure, they make the most money there, but it's kind of like NBA basketball, right? NBA basketball makes a fortune off of the TV revenue, and the players make a fortune off of it. But there is a real reason that the teams are reluctant to slim down the season.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think it's only revenue I do think there's a lot. It might not be your main revenue stream, but that's a lot. It's kind of like if you go to a concert, sure, the ticket sales are the vast majority of what the band makes, but they are still hawking T-shirts and CDs like crazy. where they used to be hawking CDs. I don't know. Do they still sell CDs at concerts?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about concerts. I know comedians still do the whole CD thing.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. Like there's a comedy club around me that every time they come around, it's always shirts and CDs. Or
Jerry
DVDs,
Jr. in the chat said Florida governor declared the WWE wrestling as an essential business today.
Wow.
Interesting.
Okay. I mean, it's a huge form of entertainment, and the thing is too, it's not like we were talking about those two things with the television deals and the advertising, everything they're involved in. They have their hands in so much different stuff, so many different charities. They're involved with the military, like they do so many things, and they have a lot of actors, a lot of wrestlers that progress into being actors or act and wrestle at the same time. Now, not all of them are that good. There are some that are pretty good.
I thought they were acting the whole time.
They are.
Oh, here comes Brandon Herbert. They're athletes. They're athletes. They're playing sport. All right. What are you guys watching on TV these days? But I do think this is important. I actually love when the podcasts I listen to or things I listen to talk about this, because we get through our repertoire of things so much that these good suggestions coming out. What are you guys watching?
Ozarks.
All right, Ozark. Yeah, I crushed through that. And season 4 wasn't even the best season.
If you're a fan of stand-up comedy, I highly suggest Tom Segura.
Oh yeah,
Ball
Tom Segura, anything.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I don't know if y'all follow Your Mom's House podcast.
It's kind of crude.
It's a part of my fucking life. But Tom Segura is hilarious. Chris D'Elia has a brand new stand-up special that came out today. I love stand-up comedy anyway, so I'm all over that shit. But have you ever watched Kingdom? They promote the hell out of it on Netflix. It's a Korean show. It's like way back in the 1300s or whatever. And it's got a lot of political intrigue, but also zombies in it.
What?
It really throws you a curveball, dude. I watched episode 1 last night, and I'm into it enough to want to follow it more. So a lot of violence, a lot of messed up shit. So
interesting. Y'all are right up my alley now with talking podcast, talking about movies and TV shows and stuff. That's awesome. Hey, I started watching Tiger King this week, y'all.
All right, how do you like it?
Just started.
I like it. I watched the first 4 episodes. It's not as great as everybody made it out to be.
Yep.
But it's still good.
I think a lot of it. I think the reason that it was getting as much clout as it was is the shock value, and when you don't have that shock value of going into it, like, what is this? And then all of a sudden, like, pretty much what it is when you go into it now. You don't before you watch, people didn't when it first came out and was, I guess, getting a lot of people interested in it. So it's not as good. I agree. If you're already expecting it, but I think the surprise factor is what got most people.
It's like a sequel to a comedy. Like the first comedy can be great, but you know what to expect in the second one, so you're looking for it, and it's just not as funny.
All right, so the thing with Tiger King is that I saw it a couple weeks before it went crazy.
Yeah.
And, when you're not expecting it is when it's great. There's a movie I saw a long time ago called The Ring. It's a horror movie where the girl climbs out of the TV.
Doesn't know The Ring. That was like one of the most famous movies of the early 2000s.
Okay, so the phone rings and this and that. So I was dating. Me and my wife and I were dating at the time. We were young, too young to be like staying together, shacking up together, right? But I went on a vacation with her family. And we, had to sleep in a different area of the house, that type of age group, right? Some things like that. So we wanted to get out of the house. We were kind of just stuck in Athens, Georgia in a holding pattern until we were going on to our next destination. And we just said, man, we were stuck in the house. We were like, we got to get the hell out of here. We're trying to go around and, ride and bake that, whatever. So we just picked whatever movie was playing in the next half hour. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And we picked The Ring, and so we showed up in there with absolutely no idea of what it was about, and it was the most fucking awesome experience. Like, I was petrified, man. It was so great. I don't know if people would have told me if it was the scariest movie ever, this and that, I would have had the same feeling. All right. So I think the Tiger King, once people tell you it's awesome, my recommendation is to, if you want the kind of crazy factor, is to go watch Don't Fuck with Cats.
Yeah.
That shit is the best. That Luca Magnotta, man, is a fucking brilliant wacko. But I have watched a couple of things that I think are very cool. On the serious side, in a very bizarre film, The Killing of a Sacred Deer. It's on Netflix, and it's got who is hold on, I love her, Nicole Kidman in it. Colin Farrell, Nicole Kidman. It's an Irish film. It is dark and whack. It is a very dark show and or movie. And I'm not finished with it because I was propping my eyeballs open last night with toothpicks. Code 8. And this is up your alley, Greg. Code 8, I really liked it. So far, I've got like 30 minutes left.
I don't know what about Code 8. Tell me about it.
Code 8 is got a superhero vibe to it. It's like in this world where there are people with special powers, right? They're just normal part of society, and somehow they're pulling some fluid out of their spine that is like it's like a drug that everybody wants to do. It's like you're doing the superhuman juice. And even superhumans like to do the superhuman juice. And
what's it called?
It's called Code 8. It's kind of like, think of, I'm trying to think of a movie I've seen where younger superheroes involved meet I Come in Peace. Old school movie, you guys wouldn't know about I Come in Peace. But I watched that, and I think those are the two things that I think are worth mentioning right now. The Killing of a Sacred Deer. It's like a serious film and hardcore, bro.
So I do want to mention two things. One thing about Tiger King, and then one thing. Well, I'll say this one first. Tiger King is not even the best documentary on Netflix.
What is?
Wild Country. Dude, it's about what happens if an Indian guru who's wanted by the law in India decides to come over to America, take over a ton of acres of land up in Oregon and try to build a utopia. Dude, and it has murder mystery. It is the craziest shit you've ever seen. Wild, Wild Country. If you have not seen it, you have to check it out. But I did want to mention one more thing about Tiger King, man. After I watched that, my fascination with big cats has gone through the roof, dude.
I think that's across the board. It is not accomplished what it's wanted to do.
All of my YouTube, dude, I cannot tell you how many stats and facts I've learned about the differences between tigers and lions and leopards and jaguars. I know how to tell the difference.
Now we're speaking my language. And what you learned is the tiger is king. It is superior. It's the superior animal.
I'm subscribed to YouTube to the Doc Antle's daughter and son, and they post videos all the time of them like messing with their tigers and their chimps. Dude, my fascination with big cats has gone through the roof. Oh, they're so awesome, man. There's nothing like
Don't Fuck with Cats is the best documentary on Netflix to me. That one's so good. You guys, Luca Magnotta. All right. I also wanted to bring this up is I watched a podcast recently called The Cripple Connection.
Yes, you did.
I did too.
And I want to say that your partner in crime is remarkable. Not remarkably, like I was surprised, but he is so smart. I can tell. Like when he talks, I know that guy's brilliant. When he talks, I know he's brilliant.
I went to college with Jeffrey, and he is legitimately one of the smartest people I know.
I can tell.
I love him to death. Yeah, man, listen, no one plays more video games than us fucking cripples. So we decided to start a podcast about it and talk about it. We're going to try and film and upload every Friday. It's on my YouTube channel. So subscribe to me and check it out. Eventually, I'm going to do some more. And eventually, that podcast will have a channel of its own. But for right now, subscribe to my YouTube channel every Friday. And it's not just for us damn handicaps, bro.
It's for everybody.
It's for everyone.
Oh, I loved it.
You need to get into streaming while you're doing that.
Yeah, for sure. And we just started it up. It's gonna have a few evolutions to go through, but all the huge topics in the industry we're gonna be talking about from a lot of different perspectives. We'll have a guest on there at some point in time too. So yeah, man, if you're into video games and all the stuff around the industry, check us out.
CK, did you tell us what you were watching?
Right now I'm in the middle of finishing the 3rd season of Ozark.
That's just so dope.
I've pretty much run through everything. I don't know if I mentioned it on this podcast. I know I've mentioned it, I think streaming and maybe at work, but I have been for the past I guess about a week or so, I've been just going through all the Marvel movies leading up to Endgame.
Yeah, my man.
That's 21, they're 20, possibly 22.
23 in total.
23.
That's insane.
Movie. And they're all pretty much 2 hours long. So you've got to, and I did every one of them. I finished Endgame. I am done.
Are you sick of them?
No, I'm not. But they're the greatest, like, it's the greatest buildup in entertainment history to have the end result that way. The problem is, and I think that what I've done is I've made myself not interested in watching any more Marvel movies or another buildup. I don't know if I can dedicate that type of energy to another buildup like I did for the end game.
I've been trying to do this with Star Wars, and I just get like, oh God, so much.
Well, just so you know, they're not doing another build-up. That's not the plan for the next one. So the next one's supposed to be more independent movies.
Oh,
Tony, you don't like Star Wars? What?
No, I do, but trying to go through. I'm trying to start with one.
I've never been huge on Star Wars, and sometimes, especially now that there's all these new movies and shows and stuff, I do find it to be a daunting task.
Yeah.
But that's the same thing with Marvel. Like with Marvel, all their TV shows, all their movies, everything you can keep up with. Yeah, there's a lot to keep up, especially when what they were doing there towards the beginning. I know we're in a completely different podcast now, but what they were doing there towards the beginning of the Marvel buildup to the original Avengers was that they were creating these, or I guess, after the original Avengers, they created Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And now in order to almost feel like you know what's going on in the universe, you have to keep track of that series. You have to watch that every week because there's something going on with that that's actually having to do with the movies. After every movie would drop, they would actually have that movie impacting the show somehow. And so now all of a sudden there's this Easter egg of material. And for you to feel like you're 100% in the know of what's happening, you almost have to feel obligated to watch every single series they have out there.
Well, that is a big issue they've had, especially with all these Disney Plus shows. But they've made it a point to say that you cannot watch the TV shows and still understand the movie. If you watch the TV shows, you will get more out of the movie, but you don't have to watch one. And that's the way they try to do the whole franchise. You can watch any movie in the MCU and not have to watch one before that to really.
But let me ask you, Greg.
More, but
let me ask you, Greg. You're like me, I imagine. You're not satisfied with not knowing everything.
Oh yeah, I'm a completionist. Yeah, I got to know.
So that's where I'm talking about the daunting task of not knowing.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to get into it. I don't want.
My fault.
Yeah,
it's not their fault.
There's so much. There's an undertaking.
But it scares you off.
Yeah. There's definitely and a little bit of that. Greg, I did want to mention to you, and I'm a little bit embarrassed to say this, that during this quarantining that we've done, I watched Joker for the first time.
Oh, it's so good.
Phoenix, dude.
It's so good. So good.
Amazing, wasn't it?
That might be one of my favorite movies of all time. Dude.
And that was the movie that everybody said we didn't need. We didn't want, we didn't need.
I would love it.
Oh,
if
gosh.
they decided to build the DC universe
around
that movie like Marvel did with Iron Man. Like, dude, I want to see Batman in that version of Gotham.
I think that would be incredible.
It would be
I
incredible.
agree.
The reason why they won't do that is because when Batman vs. Superman and Man of Steel came out, it was too dark. Even though it wasn't nearly as dark as Joker, it was too dark, and that's why they changed directions.
I don't think it's a problem of being
Marvel-esque.
too dark. I think they just have a problem with not they like they always talk about. You know, they decided to cut it too early. They didn't. The problem, and I'm sure you know about this, you know, Greg, is that they were pushing to get all of those movies released too quickly.
Right. I agree.
And
I
that's
agree.
the issue.
We like dark. We like dark, and Batman is the epitome. Yeah.
Exactly.
And think about the best of all Batman movies have all been dark, and the ones that aren't good haven't been. So think about the two Batman. Michael Keaton as Batman is the best Batman. Like, I mean, it's just plain and simple. He's the best Batman.
He's a good one. I wouldn't say the best one, but he's a good one. But you know,
he's not bad.
Like
Wait, who's the other guy?
Ben
Who's
Affleck is the best Batman.
What?
You think Ben Affleck's been the best Batman?
Dude,
Y'all are crazy as fuck.
And Batman vs. Superman is my all-time favorite movie. I've probably seen it 1,000 times.
Oh my gosh!
Greg, I feel a lot of people, and by the way, I'm not like a super fan of that movie. I don't hate it either, but I feel like a lot of people shit on Ben Affleck just because it's Ben Affleck.
Exactly.
It's because his first go. It's here. It's not. This is was it? Wait. He wasn't. I'm thinking of. He wasn't one
Daredevil.
of. Okay.
He was Daredevil.
I'm thinking of George Clooney Batman, which was horrendous. No, Michael Keaton is the #1 Batman. The first Batman, the second one with Michelle Pfeiffer, unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
Both were dark. The second one was super dark. The second Batman was super dark, and then all of the Dark Knights were dark. I like those. And so it just naturally gravitates to that. Just like Superman gravitates to the opposite of dark.
Yeah, and I think a big argument people have with Henry Cavill and Man of Steel and Superman is that's not my Superman. My Superman saves cats out of trees and this and that. But you can go back and look at the origin of Superman on his first ever cover. He's throwing a car at people with an angry face, and people are cowering in fear and running
I did
away.
like that movie. That movie was awesome. That movie was awesome.
Yeah, it's my second favorite movie. Second favorite movie all the time. Wait, before we get off TV shows and get out of here, I do want to recommend. I came home yesterday. My wife just started a new series, Lucifer. It's not a new series.
Yeah, I've watched
If you haven't watched Lucifer, man, that is an awesome series. I watched the whole first season yesterday. I'm probably going to try to watch an episode before I go to bed tonight.
The problem
awesome series
is that we're not Satanists. That's the problem. We're not Satanists.
No, to be honest with you, it actually is very. It would be the opposite of Satanist. If you ask me.
It really
I'm
is.
worried about watching that show Messiah. People say that one's is. I ain't messing with it.
Yeah, that's insane.
I've watched a few episodes of that, and then I kind of got bored with it. It kind of lost me at the end.
Okay. All right. So everybody, if you're looking for a serious movie, you're gonna go to Kill a Sacred Deer, or Killing the Sacred Deer. That's my That's my. Oh, and the reason I did bring this up, Cody, is I saw this. Is somebody on Twitter wrote, "Should I watch Ozark or All American?" And I wanted to, and I was just like, I want to fucking kill you. I want to murder you.
Okay, no. So, hold on. And she's still in the chat room. Thank God. I put that tweet out about how, dude, All American is a high school football show, and it's so cornball, dude. It's filled with every stereotype that there is, and I just, dude. But
it's like an urban version of Friday Night Lights.
Yeah, Sarah Taylor hit me up and said, "Oh, you have to give it another chance." The guy is based on a loose telling of a true story, and the dude played for the Panthers or something. I don't know the whole story, but dude, the whole time I'm watching it, I'm rolling my eyes back in my head like, oh God, dude. If a show has terrible writing, I hate everyone in the show. I hate them, and I'm not having fun, and I'm just done watching the show. And
That's why you love Watchmen.
I love the Watchmen.
You know what? I still haven't finished that. That's something I need. That's what I'm glad you brought
definitely
that up.
should.
Oh, it's incredible.
The last 2 or 3 episodes will blow your freaking mind. Yeah, definitely watch it.
I watched the first one, and I think I fell asleep, and then I like my
Go ahead.
It's slow picking up.
Well, I fell asleep, and then it got too far ahead, and then I just didn't know where I was, so I lost the interest in wanting to go back and find where I was. So that's something that happens. That's the whole problem with falling asleep during.
I am watching something.
That's the problem with Netflix. Yeah.
I am watching something else, and I don't know why it took me this long to think about it. Westworld.
I watched the first season.
That one takes you got to watch that with a notepad and the blog forum open. Like that is the most complicated show. I've watched seasons 1 and 2, I believe, or I'm still in season 2. I've have to watch them like 700 times because I'll drink beer, I'll be playing chess, and I got to rewatch it.
It is very involved, but if you go along for the ride, dude, I'm in love with that shit. And it's all stuff that we're going to have to deal with very, very soon. I mean,
they said that about Terminator in the 80s, though, too.
No,
so, I mean,
it's different now, man. I'm telling you.
Can't wait. I cannot wait to go to the Westworld farm. Sign me up. I want to go there. All right, so that's the C3 Panthers podcast. We got one last segment. That's where we ice fools up. We tell them to ice up, toughen up, to get it together. And I'm going to start tonight with a good one. My mother-in-law. So my fridge has been, and I'm also icing up appliances that last 5 years. Right? I got a fridge right now that I'm going to probably have to replace. And I'm trying one last ditch effort to thaw it out, and hopefully that kicks the fan back on. It does not look like it's going to happen. Anyway, I got to scramble to get all this, and my mother-in-law had a old fridge that was her garage fridge, right? Like she kept the fridge in her garage for drinks and extra stuff like that. Well, then their regular fridge broke. This was 3 years ago, and they cycled they got a new fridge. They upgraded. That's what it was. They upgraded their kitchen or something like that. And they cycled that one out. And then she tried to give us this fridge. And my garage has been a fucking shitstorm for years. Like, we didn't have room and all of this. And she would call us up, and she'd be like, when you get in that fridge? When you get in that fridge? So today, when my fridge broke, I was like, hey, we're coming over to get the fridge. And I was like, we're going to get that fridge, at least to save the hundreds of dollars or whatever shit we got in our fridge right now that's about to go bad. So she's been kind of bugging us about this. We get there, my wife and I load it up. How about that? My wife and I get this fridge on the back of my truck, do all that, get it home. We open that thing up, and it looked like fucking Dexter had murdered somebody in there. Now, it wasn't stinky. It wasn't food. It wasn't anything like that. But it was like disgusting. And I was thinking about this. And by the way, we plugged it up and don't fucking work. So it doesn't get
because they didn't want it.
I'm icing up motherfuckers who give away their broken ass shit to other people. And also heckle them for not coming and getting it sooner. Just ask me to take your broken-ass fridge to the damn dump. That's what you could have done. But no. Instead, you gave me some broken-down, janky-ass, disgusting, leftover Dexter refrigerator that I got to now load back on my truck and take to the fucking dump. Ugh. So to y'all mugs, if your fridge can't ice up, ice up.
Ice up.
Good one.
Does it have a freezer attached to it? Because then it has like a double meaning.
All of it's broken. And then she had the nerve to say when we loaded it up, she said, "Now the freezer don't work on it." Like, so you were already giving us something that your ass knew was broke as a fucking joke from the beginning.
Do any of y'all have one that you want to?
You go ahead.
Yeah. So, listen, I'm not, as of late, I haven't been the biggest Ronda Rousey fan. But she was in the news, and I'm going to come to her defense tonight. And I think Greg and CK are both wrestlers here. Wrestling fans, rather.
Mm-hmm.
But she was doing Steve-O's podcast, and she basically said wrestling is people having fake fights for fun. Which, again, wrestling fans get so bent out of shape over the word fake. And that's not to diminish what they're actually doing and that their bodies aren't going through all kinds of hell doing what they do. It's not taking it away from it, but it's more of a drama. Like it has more in common with the Sopranos than it does with an MMA fight. And
we've been here before, Greg.
And everyone is so up in arms. But dude, listen, if anyone has the right to say this, it's Ronda fucking Rousey. I mean, Ronda Rousey had, regardless of what you think of her personality, she was a UFC champion and was dominating other chicks, okay? She knows what it's like to really train in real combat. And even fellow wrestlers are all bent out of shape in this. Like, how do you not understand the context of what she was saying? You cannot compare a wrestling match, which is a scripted physical drama, with a real MMA fight. There are no comparisons.
No, you can't. If you know who the victor is going to be before they start, it's not a sporting contest.
Yes.
It can be a sporting contest. It's not a competition.
Yes, and it's not saying that they're not high-level athletes for doing what they do, but you really are having a fake fight for fun, for drama and entertainment purposes.
Do you know what Donald Trump would say?
I don't want to know what Donald Trump would say.
It's rigged. It's rigged. It's rigged.
Yeah. Dude. And then wrestlers like Alexa Bliss apparently are coming out and they're all pissed off. Like, dude, our world today understands no context.
She should challenge those bitch ass wrestlers to come in the octagon with her.
Yeah, and none of them would do it because she was small.
Well,
she would
CM Punk tried.
Destroy them.
CM Punk tried, but he got
got his ass whooped.
He got destroyed. Exactly.
But yeah, man. But then on the other hand, look what you're not devaluing what kind of athletes they are, because then look at Brock Lesnar. He went to the UFC and was a UFC heavyweight champion. Like, that guy was a legitimate NCAA wrestler. So, there's a difference, man. And, dude, wrestling fans are so mad whenever you use the word fake. And I just don't understand that, man. I don't understand.
They should embrace it, dude.
Yeah, to all the outrage from fans and the wrestlers, fucking ice up, son. Ice up.
I should have iced my kids up. I tried to make my kids watch Cool Runnings the other night. They had zero interest in it. I love Cool Runnings.
Great movie, yeah.
What you got, Greg?
Okay, I'll ice up every professional athlete getting paid right now except for Justin Verlander, and it could be more than Verlander, but I don't really know for sure. I don't know if y'all heard, but the MLB players are going to be okay. They're not going to get paid their full salary while baseball's going on right now, but they're going to get $5,000 a day. So that should be enough to be able to put food on the table. I hope it is, because $150,000 a month, I really hope that can, athletes going on, like with things going on right now, there's a lot of people suffering, a lot of people losing jobs. If you're scheduled to make $6 million this month, do you not think for 1 month you could survive off $1 million and help contribute to a cause? And don't get me wrong, I try to contribute to charities when I can, but I don't make $6 million a month. So it's a little different for me. My thing is, if you're making that much money and you know what's going on now and you're not working, help somebody else out, man. I mean, damn, we could make this world so much better if people like that in those positions would help out people who don't have. And I get it. It sounds like a charity case, but this is a different kind of situation. I know Verlander decided he was going to give up his entire salary until this whole thing was done, which I think he makes like $658,000 a week. So it's not really, and he's married to Kate Upton. So he's not really worried about money or who he's going home to. But to all other athletes who are making all this money while you're not doing shit and you're not giving back to help out the community and help out the country and everybody else going on with these things right now, we're not going to be around to come watch you whenever you do start playing again. So guess who's going to be pocketbook's going to be hurt then? Because your money comes from that revenue. Like, we pay your salary, whether you like it or not. We buy your jerseys, we buy your cards, we watch your television, we go to your games. So if you can't give back, if you can't survive off $1 million a month or whatever, then ice up. That's all I got to say. It's ridiculous the amount of money players get paid nowadays, and they're still getting paid, not even being essential employees and not even working. So it blows my mind. So ice up.
CK, what you got for us?
I'm going to go a little different, and I'll explain why. And it's no knock on anybody, but these past few weeks and really this past month has just been taxing, I think, for most everybody in the country. And the part of it that's so tough, and this is coming from a debt collector who's having to call people during this crisis and try to collect on debt. It's one of the toughest times, and I don't know about anybody else, but I found myself mentally exhausted from all of this. And one of the things that's so tough is just constantly hearing negativity all the time. And so for me, what I want to do is I want to say, for anybody who's out there who's having a hard time just being at home and not being able to go out and enjoy themselves or have a job or anything along those lines, it's tough, and it's easy to kind of get into a dark place in your life and everything. But just know you have a group of people here, even if it's just us, if it's people in the chat, if it's other Panthers fans. I mean, we're all in this together. We want to try to get through the other end of this, and it is a tough situation. And we can't be more appreciative that you are choosing to watch us or listen to us or whatever you may be doing to watch the podcast at this moment in time. I just want to, offer my thoughts and prayers for anybody who is more impacted than I am by this. I know me personally, I'm working, but I'm working from home, and I feel like I'm under house arrest, and it's really starting to kind of weigh on my mind, and my chest is I just feel more exhausted by everything, and it's just so hard for me to wake up and want to do the same old grind every single day. But, if you get through this, I'm a firm believer that, we're going to come out on the other end of this. And I just want you guys to know that we're, that at least me, and I'm sure all the other guys here are willing to have a conversation if you guys are in need of something outside of what you're having to do with it on a daily basis. So. Anyway.
That's so true, man. A good way to wrap up the podcast. You guys be sure to check out at Codizzle_Allen on Twitch. And we'll get some more games loaded up. They got to mute Tony because he's got the foul mouth. So we're gonna do our best because
I haven't.
I killed that mofo. I killed that mofo.
And to be fair, we were playing pretty.
You're like,
late,
where's this motherfucker coming from?
I think we were past the hours where parents are going to be watching what's going on the Twitch stream, if I could speak. So
yeah, it was like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, I think, when we were playing. Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, but fun. So check out that Twitch channel. Greg, man of many podcasts, where can they? I know Friday nights is the night that you guys record. Monday is the audio dump. What's the name of the podcast, and how can they find it?
You can find me at the Bat Daddy 52, and I am one of the hosts of the Super Civil Servants podcast, where we talk about the same kind of thing that the C3 Panthers podcast has been talking about for the last 45 minutes. Movies, television shows, all that good stuff. Sarah Taylor's going to be, it is tons of fun, man. Sarah Taylor's going to be on my show this week from the chat room. She's a huge fan of this show, huge fan of my show, great friend. We're talking some MCU. CK is coming on next week. We're talking Lord of the Rings. Man, we've got plans out the wazoo. It's a great time. We have no limits, no bars, and we don't have any rules really. So if you're interested in coming and checking us out, you can find us on any platform or any network you listen to your podcast on. And in 4 episodes, we're going live just like this show as soon as
awesome. Awesome. Yeah. And it's going to take lots of hours and lots of frustration, lots of hiccups, but you'll get it. You're going to stick with it. You're going to keep pounding. Cody, the Cripple Connection podcast is on your YouTube channel. You'll be revamping that up. Also, where you got some work coming out on Draft Tech.
Yeah, man. So follow me on Twitter at CodyLac, CodyLac. No matter what I'm doing, mock drafts, podcasting. If you want to know about it, you can follow me on Twitter to find it. I started a podcast with my man Jeffrey Redmond, Cripple Connection podcast. It's all about everything video games. If you're a fan of video game talk and industry discussion, the specs of new consoles and console wars, all that kind of good stuff, check out the podcast. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Cody Lashley, the same one I use here in the YouTube chat. And tomorrow there is a brand new mock draft on drafttech.com with first and second round picks. By the way, spoiler alert, peep that second round pick. Dude, that is a dream scenario. Those 2 first and second round picks that I have us taken for the Panthers. So definitely check that out tomorrow, drafttech.com. Message me your input. Before our next show, I'm going to try and have my top 100 players of this season's NFL draft, and I'll publish that, and you'll be able to use that as your own personal guide of players to look out for who might be available for the Panthers at what pick and how they stack up. And you'll be able to ask me questions about that as well. And that's about it, man.
All right, man. That's the C3 Panthers podcast. The number's 252-228-5098. We'll be here next Tuesday, 9 o'clock, and then also next Thursday as the draft kicks off. I believe it usually starts at 8 or 8:30. We start just a few minutes before the draft. Go ahead, hang out with us. Mute your TV. Hang out with Panther fans. Come in and out. We'll see you next Tuesday. It's the C3 Panthers podcast. Subscribe, support, keep pounding.